At the construction project and promotes their businesses. Also, we have a business resource center that provides with local businesses with the skill set to help or enhance their businesses in a way that can better promote their businesses, either by helping them build websites or maintaining or updating what is current with today's trends in business communication. So, and those are available as well. So going on to the next three people are going to be Deborah Murphy, followed by Brian B., followed by David Newman. So Deborah, you are next to speak.
Good day. Thank you very much, Metro staff, for the opportunity to make public comments. I'm Deborah Murphy. I'm an urban designer and planner, founder of Los Angeles Walks, and I chair the City of Los Angeles Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So you can see my commitment to making streets safe for pedestrians. My comments are going to focus on the Eagle Rock section of the project. I've been involved in the $16 million Beautiful Boulevard project that will provide pedestrians, cyclists, and transit improvements on Eagle Rock Boulevard from Colorado Boulevard right here in Eagle Rock, connecting to this project all the way down to York Boulevard. That project's going to proposes protected bike lanes for that 1 mile segment, and it's being funded with Metro's I-710 North funding. So it's critical to tie these projects together so that transit riders, cyclists, pedestrians can have a continuous, complete streets experience in Eagle Rock and connect to this important BRT project. So I want to really thank Metro for listening to the Eagle Rock community's vision for the Beautiful Boulevard project that will make for a transformative, innovative, and comprehensive project that will help Metro achieve its visions for the project as a premier transit project. However, the refined F1 option doesn't go far enough. It needs to provide a truly complete streets project with true BRT-style buses that board from both sides and provides for sidewalk level protected bike lanes. We should be providing the premier provisions here on Eagle Rock Boulevard and through this project area so that cyclists, kids, seniors, everybody can have a safe experience through that key part of Eagle Rock, with shade trees that provide a buffer between pedestrians and cyclists and provide important shade. Urban cooling is a really key consideration for this project and is a vital part of support that Caltrans and the California Transportation Commission have looked at for a similar project in Canova Park, which was the highest ATP awarded project because it was transformative, innovative, and comprehensive, and that ties together transit, pedestrian, bike, and urban cooling improvements. So I really want to thank Metro for listening to the community and trying to create safe streets for all. So let's make sure that we get as many sidewalk widenings throughout the project areas, do as many first and last mile connections on the cross streets as Felicia mentioned. Let's look to those first last mile funding opportunities and wherever we can find funds to make this a really complete project in the neighborhoods as well as along the corridor. Thank you for the opportunity to make comments.
Yes, thank you. We will go on to our next three folks, which are Brian B., followed by David Newman, followed by Michael Sweeney. Brian B., you are being unmuted. If you can start.
All right.
I hear you.
Okay. My name is Brian Bress. I live on Loletta Avenue in Eagle Rock. I've lived in Eagle Rock for many, many years now. And I just wanted to say thank you for the time to respond to this plan. And thank you to Tito Corona and Scott Hartwell for your explanation. I'm a little late to the party as this last year has been really taxing and draining on everybody. And we've been doing double duty all around. I'm sure everybody has been stressed. I know I have. I haven't had time to really pay attention to this project, so I apologize if I repeat questions or I'm a little late to the game. My first question is, you said that there was concern about traffic congestion from earlier comments from residents in Eagle Rock. And my first question is going to be, what about that? I mean, as I see it and I experience it, I think traffic would slow to a crawl. I don't think there's enough people willing to take the bus or to bike to decrease traffic on Colorado Boulevard. Nor do I think that any traffic diversion is going to work, because people are just going to take hill as a shortcut, and it's gonna be a kind of surface streets maze to get around the traffic congestion. As I see it, I'm not an urban planter. I'm not a traffic activist or trying to support this project just based on idealism. I really do appreciate the goals of the project. I am all for creating a more safer place to walk and a more beautiful environment. I think these are really good goals, and I appreciate the intention of the project. I just worry that there's going to be a lot of unintended traffic consequences on that stretch where you go down to one lane. Specifically, if you're parallel parking on Colorado Boulevard to visit one of these small local businesses, not a Starbucks, not a Jamba Juice, but a local business on that street, you're going to want to parallel park there. A lot of them don't have parking lots. Their only parking is right in front. When you go to Fort Cafe, you're going to park there. On your way home, you're going to stop and grab some dinner to bring home to your family from work. And if you try to parallel park right in front of Fort Cafe, you manage to find a spot, well, you're going to stop there, try to parallel park, and then slow traffic down. There's no way to get around you. Meanwhile, if you have a passenger, from your illustration, Scott, and maybe I have it wrong, but the bike lane is now on the right side between the parking lane, the parking area, and the sidewalk. So that passenger is going to open up a door, not used to a bike lane being there. Usually they're on the driver's side. So you're going to have a passenger opening their door it would seem, to block the bicyclists and perhaps clothesline them there. Usually bicyclists, at least if they see somebody's about to get out of the car, they at least have a little bit of room to go right around that. It just seems, and I'm not a cyclist. I'm sure a lot of the cyclists, especially ones who are activist transit planners, are going to disagree, and I'm ready to hear those comments. But it just seems counterintuitive from just a flow of bikes, people, and cars, that you're going to make it. Sometimes you just can't fit everything you want into one space, and I feel like I appreciate the trees and the buses and the cars and the pedestrians. I know that they all need a beautiful and efficient way to get around, but that stretch of Eagle Rock of Colorado Boulevard there, it seems like they're trying to squeeze way too much into it. And to just echo a point that was mentioned before about the voices that spoke up against this before COVID, I spoke to a lot of people on my block. They did not have time to come to this meeting because they are juggling care and their kids are not in school, and they don't have time to come to these meetings or even be aware of it. So I think to sort of come to the conclusion that the community is in overwhelming support of this project during a time when most of them are overwhelmed with so many things on their mind is not to really get a good idea of the support or the lack of support for the Beautiful Boulevard project. I think that you have a lot of elderly people and a lot of less tech savvy people, like as was said before, who do not understand how to even get to this meeting. And then you have a lot of people who have kids who are just trying to feed their kids dinner right now, and they don't have time or the bandwidth to deal with this. So I think that there needs to be a serious public outreach during a time after COVID, and really reach out to the community and really get an opinion. Because I think right now what you have is you have a lot of idealist activists calling up, and saying the same thing. I support the Beautiful Boulevard project, and that's great. They should, if that's what they believe. But I don't think that you have a true representation of the stakeholders in this project. And just another note, as a rendering, you've shown mature trees, and yes, they will help with urban cooling. But those renderings, I guarantee you the trees that they're going to plant there are not going to be providing shade for another 20 to 30 years. And by that time, I'm not sure what, I mean, we're all going to be what, getting into self-driving electric cars, and maybe traffic won't be a problem. But I think that shade is really far off. And when you think about those renderings, and you think about replacing mature trees with new trees, think about the actual shade that's already there. And I would say, whatever way you go ahead with this, is just somebody who really appreciates the trees that are already there. Think about saving those. I know you said you were going to try to, Scott, but I mean, really think about what kind of trees they would actually put in there and how young and what lack of shade that they would really provide. And then just one more question or comment. I understand the comment about trying to save businesses and get them like websites or something, but all of that effort at trying to come up with a way to publicize these businesses and everything, it's not going to make a lot of difference in my opinion, because people are still not going to be able to get to them. There's going to be scaffolding and trucks and construction guys, and people are just going to go the other way, and they're going to avoid that altogether. And as that happens, the way I see it is we're going to lose our local businesses. They're going to go out of business, and then there'll be empty places there. And then after it's all done and those businesses are gone and never coming back, you're going to have the Starbucks and you're going to have the chain places come in and swoop in, and we're going to have another boulevard that looks like any other street in any other town. And that's not something I want to see. Anyway, thank you for listening to my long comments, and if you can answer any of those questions, if you remember them, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Again, those are mostly comments, but again, we are also working with construction. When construction happens, we do have additional construction mitigation. We have access to the businesses. We don't prevent access. If not, we provide the proper signage to maintain the access. But you did have to ask a question about parallel parking, which is another question that we received via text as well. So we'll be answering two questions in one here. Scott, if you can address that question about parallel parking in the area where there's one lane, how do we address that? And also, I guess he asked about a little bit more about the traffic impacts that were brought up during the roundtables. Can you please address those?
Yeah, so what I would actually like to do is I'd like to defer to Brent Ogden on our technical team to answer. I think those two questions are somewhat related in terms of the overall traffic effects. But before we get there, I would also just like to respond to the design of the bike lanes and the concern about parking cars and doors opening and dooring cyclists, as it's known. The curb running bicycle lanes that we are proposing are wide. They include a buffer. It's not just the bike lane itself. It's actually a very wide space. It's similar to the width of the current bike lanes. So there would be sufficient rooms for cyclists to operate in those lanes without worrying about that particular hazard. So Brent, feel free to weigh in on the traffic effects.
Sure. Well, I mean, clearly if someone is doing a parking maneuver, the cars behind are going to have to wait if there's one lane. So there could be some pause in the traffic movement when someone's doing a parking maneuver. Very often, when you find that you're held up on the street by a delivery vehicle or any other vehicle, the real congestion occurs at the signalized intersections, and often you catch up with everybody else at the next traffic light. But that's part of the aspect of taking it down to one lane and slowing the traffic down.
All right. Thank you, Brent. So we have the next three folks who will be David Newman, followed by Michael Sweeney, followed by Lionel. Just to let everybody know, we do have quite a few hands that are raised, and this meeting is until 7 p.m., so we want to make sure to get to as many folks as possible who have their hands raised. So please, you can be shorter with your questions so we can be able to appropriately address them and answer them. That would be greatly appreciated, so we can answer as many questions from the many people who are in attendance that have their hands raised. So with that, I'm going to Mr. David Newman. If you can speak, we are unmuting you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Wonderful. Thank you for hosting this event. I want to echo what Brian just said. My hope is that there will be further opportunities for comment from the widespread community, particularly for residents who cannot reasonably expected to attend a 5 p.m. meeting due to work or childcare duties, etc. Frankly, I'm a little shocked that Metro had 3 private meetings with Eagle Rock quote-unquote stakeholders, meetings that were not publicly noticed and with people who support this new plan. But then Metro sets a single public meeting at 5 p.m. after revisions or what you're calling refinements have been made to the plan. That seems pretty one-sided and a little disingenuous in terms of getting public opinion. In any event, I'm going to speak to the Eagle Rock section of the plan. It's an area where I lived for over a decade. As I mentioned, you talk about refinements to a quote-unquote community-developed proposal. I think that's a bit of an exaggeration, to say the least. They are certainly not refinements, and it's not a community-developed proposal. Metro spent years seeking input from the community. That is, actual community members, not people pretending to represent the community, people purporting to act in the best interest of the community, or people that you continuously refer to as stakeholders, but we have no idea who they actually are. Actual Eagle Rock residents made clear through almost a year and a half of open meetings that the majority of them did not want Colorado reduced to 1 lane of traffic. In fact, for those that may have forgotten, when the reduction of traffic lanes was indicated as a real possibility by Metro, there was such an outcry from the community that Supervisor Solis's office set another community meeting with Metro at Oxy, which Solis attended and was given an earful by the community about this drastic plan. I mean, let's face it, we've got a few small groups that are pushing their own agenda and are doing so in what I think is a pretty disingenuous way. Particularly this group known as Eagle Rock Forward that's offered what people have consistently referred to as the Beautiful Boulevard plan. Again, you've been referring to this as community developed, although I'm part of the community and I never even gave any input to this plan. They created a slick website, and supposedly lots of people supported the website and clicked on the link that said support it. But we have no idea where they're from, if they're from Eagle Rock, if they live here, if they work here. And the biggest question is, why are they coming in after the fact? All of this is coming in after the DIR was proposed. They had 18 months to offer this kind of thing, and they didn't do it. It's an end run around what is clearly what had been a very democratic process. But my biggest concern, and what I'd like Metro to answer, is do they even know who these so-called stakeholders are in terms of versus the regular population? Like, who's involved in Eagle Rock Forward, and who's pushing this Beautiful Boulevard plan? As far as the public is concerned, there's not a single name, business, or organization that can be linked to the Eagle Rock Forward group or the Beautiful Boulevard plan. And unfortunately, that appears to be intentional. And I hope Metro has taken note of this. Through social media posts, it's evident that several people involved with Eagle Rock Forward are also members of the ERNC Land Use and Planning Committee, including the co-chairs. That relationship was never adequately disclosed to the public. But while those individuals were voting on behalf of the ERNC for BRT-related issue, including votes that ultimately may have led to Metro's undoing of the original plan, they were also developing and supporting this so-called community-developed plan that includes a single traffic lane. There's a real stench of a conflict of interest, and I hope that the Metro is aware that its input from these so-called stakeholder groups really doesn't involve the community and really doesn't involve what the community has to say. I hope that gives plenty of pause to Metro. And I really hope that they rethink this plan, they go back to the drawing board in terms of getting actual community input the way they had done for the 18 months preceding the DEIR, and they understand that there's probably a huge costly litigation coming down the pike if they stick with 1 lane of traffic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Again, we will go on to the next 3 people, which are Michael Sweeney, followed by Lionel M., followed by Martin Leitner. And again, just let everybody know, again, we have until 7 o'clock tonight, and we have over 220 folks in attendance and many of them have their hands raised. So we want to make sure that we can get to as many folks as possible. So please go ahead and ask your questions or make your comments, and then we will move forward. Michael Sweeney, you are unmuted if you can speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, so I'm Mike Sweeney. I'm a homeowner here in Eagle Rock. I'm also a transit rider. But before I was working from home, I was a transit rider. And I'm going to start with a question, and then I'm going to explain why I think it's so important. I want to ask Metro, how in your process for this do you center safety? Because, you know, the reason that many people signed on for the Beautiful Boulevard, including the reason that the PTAs of Dahlia, Rockdale, Eagle Rock High, Eagle Rock Elementary, and also the Montessori is supporting it, is because the current boulevard is fundamentally unsafe in a lot of ways. The crossing times take forever. The bike lanes are terrifying if you're biking with a kid. Dahlia has for years pushed to get a crosswalk at Dahlia because of accidents in the past and fear of accidents that are kind of easily foreseeable. I think that the Beautiful Boulevard, which I was involved with in some ways, I think it starts to answer some of those questions. We need to slow down traffic to make it safer. And I'm disappointed that Metro's options didn't really seem to include safety as a priority. So as I said, this isn't the only line Metro's building, and if we zoom out to the rest of the length of the boulevard, a lot of the areas in Burbank look also, I wouldn't say that they look like safety is in the top of the priority list. So that's my comment, that's my question. And again, I think the important part is when we talk about people who aren't here, this, you know, all of the PTAs have signed on. It's not just adults who this affects. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Scott, you can, I think we're also gonna call Brent on this. How can you discuss the safety and how it's part of the design process when we're moving with a project like this as far as designing it?
Yeah, I'll say a few things and then I'll hand it over to Brent. So, yeah, I mean, there's a number of safety improvements that are included in our project. A lot of the same improvements that were included in our original F1 project when that was center running as well. A number of left turn improvements that would be made, including closing off a lot of those breaks and medians east of sort of Eagle Rock Boulevard, where you do see these islands and people are making left turns and there's an insufficient amount of space to do so. So the back of vehicles are often hanging out into the traffic lanes. So as part of this concept, we would be closing those breaks, which will be a safety enhancement. There's other intersections that will be able to lengthen left turn pockets and actually in some cases be able to provide median protected turn pockets as well. We have a few different new signalized crosswalks that we're proposing in Eagle Rock, as well as an upgraded rectangular flashing beacon at Hermosa that would also become a fully signalized crosswalk. So those are some of the types of improvements that we're envisioning. Brent, did you want to weigh in?
Well, you pretty much, you know, hit the high points on the safety improvements. I mean, safety is the number one priority. So we're maintaining the buffers with the bike lanes. And as you said, we're increasing the number of signalized crossings. We're adding signalized crosswalks, making the turning movement safer. All these things are intended to improve safety and maintaining minimum lane widths. This project has not yet been designed, but when it is designed, it will conform to all of the recommended practices for safe street design.
Thank you, Brent. We have a few more questions, but I did want to address another one that was received in writing via text message from one of our people dialing in by phone. And one of the things they asked us to clarify is there is a misleading photo that looks like there are 2 lanes, but it's actually 1 lane plus a parking lane. And I'm assuming this is referring to Eagle Rock and creating more support for Eagle Rock towards the east proposal. Their question is pretty much, what are the chances of bringing back the 2-lane concept?
Well, first of all, to address the rendering, I'm assuming that's the zone, the second sort of middle rendering that we have near Maywood. We do show the 1 traffic lane in each direction, and we show a parking lane with the little parking markings on there, the stall markings there to sort of separate out that so you can see it. This is the concept that staff is recommending to the board, or is planning to recommend to the board. We are anxious to hear all of your feedback tonight, and nothing is final until we go to the board. It's ultimately up to them to select a project.
Thank you, Scott. And so we will have the next three people speak, which are Lionel, Emma, as in Mary, Martin Leiter, and Elise Kalfayan. Do you want to also confirm with folks that we have this is our additional meeting that we're having. Again, the information that was presented here has also been shared with the stakeholder roundtable. The information is pretty much available for everybody on the project webpage beginning tomorrow at metro.net/NoHoPassBRT. So with that, let's unmute Lionel. Lionel, you are able to speak. Can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me today in this meeting. I'm calling to support the idea of having the Beautiful Boulevard project. Is that right? Because I live nearby North Hollywood, and I like the idea of adding more safety and increasing, the time it gets from North Hollywood or from the valley to Pasadena. I like the idea, but I would like to echo what Brian B said about certain locations in a route adding too much. I think he was referring to adding too much things, and maybe that's my concern because he did raise a good point about that. And maybe we could somehow maybe scale back a little bit on certain locations, certain routes. But in theory, I like the idea of adding more safety for bicyclists because I myself, I'm not a bicyclist on a regular, I'm not regular, but I do bicycle once in a while, and I like the idea of adding more safety and more shade, more trees, or maintaining the trees that are already there, and maybe adding a dedicated bus lane that will make it quicker to get from the valley, from North Hollywood to Pasadena. But yeah, my concern is what Brian echoing what Brian said about maybe certain areas adding too much. That's my comment and my question. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Lionel. I'm pretty sure that your comments are taken, and we will be addressing that. Scott, did you have any additional comments based on what was mentioned here?
I'm not sure I do in this particular case. I'm not sure if it was a specific enough question for me to address.
Okay, yeah, it sounded like it was pretty much echoing the importance of safety and having it be similar to one of the proposed alignments. So with that, let's go on to our next three folks, which are Martin Leitner, followed by Elise Kalfelian, and then followed by a person, it just says Kim. So let's go next to Martin. You are able to speak. You're unmuted.
Yes. Hi, this is Martin Leitner. I'm a resident of Burbank. I'm strongly in favor of this BRT project and excited about this additional transportation choice coming to my neighborhood. The station at or near Buena Vista is going to be the most important station for Burbank resident access onto this line for anyone who lives in the western part of Burbank. And looking at the proposed reroute to Alameda and Buena Vista, that relocation is a significant impediment for anyone walking or biking to the stop from the north. It requires a rerouting to major streets, major intersections. My questions are, one, have you studied and quantified the effects of this relocation? And two, are you considering any additional features if this relocation happened to improve access from north of Olive? Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Did you get that question about studying the relocation at the Buena Vista as far as improvements and what type of improvements we would be making there? It sounds like it's going to be a very popular stop for this project.
Yeah, so the decision or the recommendation to consolidate the stops to Alameda and Naomi was in response to comments we received from the city during the EIR comment period, they kind of laid out the reasoning as to why they would prefer this reroute. And so we did look into the feasibility. We haven't, laid it out at a conceptual design level yet at this stage. We will do that. But we have looked at how this could work in terms of the bus lanes and the turning movements involved with the reroute, and then where we could put a stop along Alameda that would work. And we did identify this Alameda and Naomi as a place where there is platform space, and in a way the buses could come in, serve the passengers, and then get going again. The stops that we consolidated, including the one at Olive and Alameda and the one at Olive and Buena Vista, they are pretty close to this new stop. They're just about 0.3 of a mile roughly from Buena Vista, for example, and Olive to this new station would just be about 0.3 of a mile. And then again, we did add this stop over at Verdugo for residents who are a little closer to that area to be able to access. So that's kind of the furthest extent as to where we are in analyzing it, and we'll continue to kind of flush out how it would look as we go. And then again, with first last mile, we do assist cities with first last mile planning. So this could be potentially another opportunity for us to assist in those planning efforts.
Thanks, Scott. I'm going to move on to our next question, which is going to be Elise Kelfayan, followed by Kim, followed by Topher. So Elise, if you can unmute yourself again. We have quite a bit of folks that have questions, so if you can go ahead and start asking your questions. Sounds like we can hear you right now.
Okay, thank you. Hello, I'm on the steering committee of the Glendale Environmental Coalition, and we support the 3-zone approach on Colorado Boulevard through Eagle Rock and Metro's work to incorporate this so that the BRT can provide true connectivity and access for each of our communities. I personally consider myself a stakeholder on this project, and I've attended meetings about it since 2019. This project stretches across the city I live in, and as presented here with the refinements, it gives me and my neighbors in Glendale, as well as people in Burbank, North Hollywood, and Pasadena, who again are all also stakeholders, better access and connectivity through Eagle Rock, which is the purpose. The purpose for the entire BRT is connectivity all the way around. I had one question with respect to the Glendale Center median portion. I do think we should no longer have so much grass in that median that needs to be watered and cut, but I would hope there could be some landscaping, such as native drought-tolerant trees and plants. So my question is, will the center dedicated bus lanes in Glendale on Glen Oaks take up all the median space that exists now, or will there be landscaping around the dedicated lanes and stops?
So on Glen Oaks, where we have the median running lanes, we will not be impacting the medians for the most part. Really, the only area where the medians will have to be sort of squeezed down is at the noses of the intersections, where they're already typically narrower anyway, in order to make room for some of the improvements we have going on there. The vast majority of the stretches, however, where you have the real wide medians and the large trees, those will be unaffected. We won't be touching those. So we'll actually just be running the buses adjacent to the existing medians.
Thank you, Scott. We will go to our next person to ask their question, which is Topher, followed by Patricia Vaganel, followed by, it is Kim, then Topher. So Kim, if you can please speak, you are being unmuted.
God. Hi, sorry, madam. Hi, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. Of course, my dog started to bark right then. Thank you, Spondita. This is Kim Martellino. I've been to all these meetings. You guys know me. I want to say that I and most of the people I've spoken to are very, very opposed to even thinking about taking Colorado down to one lane in any part of Colorado. There's a fire station right there. And as we saw when there was a fire a couple of years ago here, it's really, really hard and really dangerous to try to get out of Eagle Rock. And as I strongly echo what David Newman and Brian Brest said, everything they said about parking, reversing into a spot. It's going to hold up the whole street. If there is an emergency, and those fire trucks are out all the time in Colorado, and if somebody's just trying to back into a spot and it's 5 o'clock, I think it's super, super dangerous. And I don't think that slowing down the boulevard is worth the potential damage that could come from having just one lane on a very, very, very busy street. And also, I did have a question about the budget. I know that 267 million is allocated from Measure M, but the what is being proposed by the Beautiful Boulevard sounds like that 267 is a drop in the bucket. What is the actual budget for this project? That's what I'd really like to know, because it seems like this is what's allocated is nothing compared to these great. It looks beautiful, the trees and all that, but as somebody said earlier, those are mature trees. So it's going to take 20 years for it to actually look like that. What we're talking about are planting little saplings. And I just don't see how the budget is going, where the money is coming from. So I would like to know what the actual budget is.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Scott, can you speak on the budget and how much is allocated, and pretty much if you have any initial numbers as to what we're looking at? I know that we have a limited budget for this project, and it's not intended to go up any bit. So wanted to confirm that with you, and also if you can speak on the question that Kim had.
Yeah, so a couple of things related to the budget. Yeah, $267 million is the Measure M amount we have for this project. We do also have an SB1 grant as well that is designed to sort of cover some potential cost escalation and cost increases beyond that $267 million up to an additional $50 million. So we do have some of that money to work with potentially if it's needed. I also would like to address a comment about the emergency vehicle situation. Now, emergency vehicles like fire engines would be able to access the bus lanes. So from their standpoint, there's still 2 lanes in each direction with this concept. All emergency vehicles will be able to get in those lanes. It's not like the Orange Line, for example, further west, where you have sort of a separated right-of-way that cannot physically be accessed. These lanes will be on the street, and emergency vehicles will be able to access them as they need them.
Thank you, Scott. And I think that was the most of the questions. I think there was another question about the. No, we discussed it. It was about the funding. Okay, so let's go to the next 3 people. Again, I'm sorry if I'm trying to get to as many people as possible, but we are limited. So here, we're going to go to Topher, followed by Patricia, Vaganel, followed by John. So Topher, we're unmuting you. If you can speak.
Hi, my name is Topher. I live in Pasadena, and I'm a transit user. I also use bike as a means for me to get to and from the metro stations. I'm really enjoyed the concept they have for the Beautiful Boulevards. Sidewalk level protected bike lanes are kind of just the premium when it comes to infrastructure. So I'm just curious as to why, if you guys are going to put car protected bike lanes on a portion of Colorado Boulevard, why not just make that sidewalk level? It seems like that would solve a lot of issues, especially on the downside, the downhill part. I think individuals riding their bikes would slow down a little bit more if it was curb level, as opposed to if it was like in between the gutter and the the parked cars. But over to Pasadena, I'm just curious whether or not the city Metro has any options for first mile, last mile solutions, particularly for north-south connections to the stops. There's a couple areas in which we have bike lanes that don't connect to anything once you go south of the freeway. So just curious if there's any funding opportunities or potentials to do any first mile, last mile solutions in Pasadena with the associated stops for the BRT.
Thank you. Scott, can you speak on the first last mile opportunities that we have? And he's asking specifically to Pasadena, but I'm guessing it applies to many areas along the whole alignment.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, the focus of the BRT project is the area immediately around the stations where we could do some improvements, some pedestrian type and bike improvements, again, immediately around the stations. As far as sort of a greater first last mile type footprint, as I've mentioned before, We do have a robust first last mile program at Metro that does look to assist cities with opportunities for first last mile planning, whether it's grant assistance and helping them find funding, or actually doing some of the planning legwork. So we could certainly and would look into that along the corridor, including in Pasadena. As far as the bike lanes along Colorado are concerned, I'll turn it over to Brent in a minute to weigh in on some of the technical feasibility issues. I know there were some, and we kind of looked at it from a high level concept. Also from, again, a budget level concept. When you're talking about sort of a sidewalk raised bike lane, you're talking about something that could be extremely expensive and not fit within our budget. Brent, do you want to weigh in?
Well, I think a couple of concerns would be if the bicycle lanes are raised to sidewalk level, it means extensive reconstruction of the roadway, so the construction impacts would be far greater and a longer construction period. I think there would be concerns about the disruption to provide that feature. And there also would be then greater opportunities for conflicts between bicycles and pedestrians at the intersections where we're already very tight for space because we're trying to accommodate right turning vehicles. So, I'm not quite sure whether it's fully feasible to actually raise the bike lanes up like that. We can certainly look at the protected bike path concepts and see if we can incorporate some of those solutions, but it really hasn't been fully designed yet, so that would be something that we considered more during the preliminary engineering phase.
Thank you, Brent. The next three people to ask their questions will be Patricia Wagenau, followed by John, and followed by Cheryl Weaver. So Patricia, if you can unmute yourself, you are able to speak.
Hi, thank you. I don't see a picture of me, but that's okay. First, I wanted to say thank you, Scott, Tito, and Brett. First of all, let me organize my thoughts since I've been able to see how this meeting is being held. So I'd like to make a couple of comments, and then after that, I'd like to ask one question. First of all, my concerns are I am a stakeholder. I am a real stakeholder. I own a house on College View. I own a business in Eagle Rock for 20 years, Swart Coffee on the corner of Eagle Rock and Colorado. I have been there from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day since the pandemic hit. The bike lanes are hardly used. The bike corral that it was placed in front of the store, never used. I'm concerned. I'm really a stakeholder here, and I'm concerned because I know once the BRT comes through, the zoning changes. So that means we can start building multi-level apartment buildings on Colorado. And perhaps that's the agenda underneath everything. I'm not sure, but I'm concerned about business interruption, and I'm hoping that the BRT is able to distribute the interruption fund. But I want to ask you a question, which is really important to me because I'm a cyclist also, so I'm a huge biker. And I used to bike around the LA River, and it's gone. It's completely been overtaken by the homeless, and it's so sad to see that. But that's our affordable housing issues that we need to also address. I wanted to send a shout out real quick to Brian B. and David Newman, as well as Kim. I think that these speakers were rock stars. I'm just saying. And so my question to you, as a stakeholder, I don't live in another country. I don't live in another city. I live in Eagle Rock. I raised my kids here. They went to Eagle Rock High. They went to Eagle Rock Elementary. So I'm really a person here that matters, okay? So when you guys talk about the people, the stakeholders, who are they? Who are they? My question to you is, this is a question, please. Tito, you did not answer any of David Newman's questions, so please answer this. When can we have a meeting with people, real people, that actually live in the community and have businesses on Colorado Boulevard? That's it.
Thank you for your question. Again, this is an opportunity that we're having today to meet with all the stakeholders, to hear your questions and to take your comments today. again, the stakeholder groups meetings were presented the same information that we have today, specific to Eagle Rock, but today we're opening it up for the whole corridor. So the information that you were getting here today, again, thank you for participating. I understand that there are many sacrifices that people make to be at these meetings, and especially right now with what's going on with COVID and the impacts that we have to small businesses. Thank you again for participating. And again, we will continue to have dialogue with folks. But again, we have this meeting here tonight. That's what this is for, to hear from you and to take your input and your comments as well. So hopefully that's I was able to address that. But pretty much that's what this meeting is for. It's pretty much to hear from everybody that wasn't able to make it to other meetings. But this is your opportunity. So with that, let's go to the next three folks, which are John, followed by Cheryl Weaver, followed by Nurse Barbara. So John, you are being unmuted if you can speak.
Yes, hello. Questions about the time frame and whether a study has been done as to what the drive time is currently going from Eagle Rock Boulevard to the 134 on-ramp, and what it would be with these proposals during morning drive time, midday, and also evening, and also going the opposite way. And second question is, one number of people brought up about parallel parking. Bigger issue to me is Trader Joe's. Going east on Colorado Boulevard, every day, many times a day, there are people who are trying to get into the parking lot there, and they are backed up onto Colorado Boulevard. If there's only one lane there, that is going to back up traffic for a long period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Those are pretty good questions. That, again, Scott and Brent, can you address these questions? They're particular to drive time with Colorado. If it goes down to one lane, what's the anticipated drive time that we're looking at? And also traffic impacts to Trader Joe's, which I've driven by there, and seems to always be a line out the door waiting to go in. So can you address those two questions that we had?
Sure, Brent, would you mind commenting on that?
Well, we don't have the analysis of the impact on drive times at this point in the process. If we move forward, there will be some additional traffic analysis that's done in accordance with the City of Los Angeles requirements, and that would be some of the information that could potentially become available. I appreciate the comment about Trader Joe's. I have the one that I have nearest to me, I don't go to because of those types of issues, but we sometimes when we do the final design, we make tweaks to the configuration to allow those things to operate a little bit better, so we can take a look exactly how the traffic is channeled by Trader Joe's to see if we can do anything to keep it moving there.
All right, thank you, Brent. Again, thank you for your questions. It's we're hearing your questions and your comments about traffic concerns and the impacts along Colorado, primarily from Eagle Rock. So next three folks will be Cheryl Weaver, followed by Nurse Barbara, followed by Stephen Kai. So Cheryl, you are being unmuted if you can speak. Cheryl, I think you have to unmute on your end.
There we go.
I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Cheryl Weaver, stakeholder of Eagle Rock, long-term stakeholder. I work and live in Eagle Rock. I have been following this whole process for a couple of years now. I wanted to, first of all, echo 100% support in everything that David Newman, Brian B., Kim, and Patricia Verheyen has said. I won't reiterate that, but I will ask that since in the draft EIR, in your F1, F2, and F3 options, none of them included reduction to one lane anywhere within Eagle Rock. Was that ever studied prior to implementing the Beautiful Boulevard community supposedly presentation? I'm also wondering if Metro is aware that Beautiful Boulevard presentation was only presented to a group of people that they basically knew would support their plan. It was never, ever, ever presented to the community at large for input or for suggestions whatsoever. And with that caveat, in addition, did you know that during your community roundtable meetings, of which I was invited to, I attended, and any opposition voices that were there against the Beautiful Boulevard plan were absolutely suppressed. So the community, even those that wanted to put input into it, that did not necessarily agree 100% with the Beautiful Boulevard plan, had no voice. I'm also wondering if Metro has looked at what they're going to do about the congestion at Broadway and Harvey. There's already a tremendous amount of congestion of people wanting to get on and off the freeway there, adding the BRT, taking away lanes, supposedly trying to divert traffic onto the freeway, which I don't believe much traffic going through Eagle Rock is going to go on the freeway. They're really going to locals, destinations in Eagle Rock, Highland Park, LaSalle Park, Mount Washington. That's where they're headed. Wondering if they've studied any of that either.
Thank you, Cheryl. Scott, so there were a couple questions here that were asked. There were a few actually, but I think let me make sure I got these right. The first one was one lane was having Colorado into one lane studied before the draft EIR happened, or at any point before that, our current proposal?
Yeah, it was studied at a higher level. Yes, it was looked at in the technical study, predating our alternatives analysis, and then we did study it again at a high level for the alternatives analysis. It did not, the concept did not make it into the EIR. We were at that point kind of responding to a lot of the comments that we had heard to date, including concerns about potential congestion, and based on a lot of those initial comments, we developed the proposals that we had for the draft EIR.
Thanks, Scott. I think there's a follow-up question about the study on congestion at Broadway and Harvey. Is there any study or do we have any information on that?
Right, would you mind commenting on that?
Well, there's no change to the traffic configuration at Broadway and Harvey because the buses would be turning there in mixed flow, so it's really very similar to the current operation of buses through that intersection.
All right, thank you. So we are at 6:45, and again, let's keep going and getting as many questions here and comments as possible. So the next three are going to be Nurse Barbara, followed by Stephen Kia, followed by John G. So Barbara, if you can speak or unmute yourself, you're able to speak.
Sure. Hi, my name is Barbara Klein. I'm a long-time Eagle Rock resident and homeowner. Thank you for all the updates. However, my question is, at this time, okay, let me just, my concern first and then my question. At this time, west of Eagle Rock Boulevard, we have 2 lanes each way, and now would be 1, that's what you're saying, lane. This would build congestion, especially with the frequent accidents on the 134 freeway. Since Colorado is the main vein, all cars exit when there are accidents. Most get off the freeway and take Colorado to either enter Glendale or Pasadena. My question is, can we have you enforce a temporary, maybe 3 weeks minimum closure of 1 lane on both sides of Colorado, running from Eagle Rock Boulevard to where the buses would enter the freeway to Pasadena, to be able to assess the increased congestion of cars prior to construction being started? This would let us as a community and Metro see if congestion increases, stays the same. Can you please make this happen so you can understand it from Eagle Rock's point of view and why we wanted the buses to go via the freeway and bypass Eagle Rock? So maybe can you answer us as the Eagle Rock community and enforce this closure so we all can see how it truly will affect our community? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, again for your question, and thank you again for your services again as a first responder, and also for everything that's going on right now with COVID. Scott, can you answer this question about? It sounds like she's asking for like a simulation for a couple weeks of one lane in each direction in the proposed area. Is that possible? And what's the how can that be made or how can that happen if it is?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can answer that question, to be honest with you. That sounds to me like maybe more of a question for the city of LA, since it is city of LA right of way. If that's something that they would be open to, then maybe they could consider that, and we could do something like that.
Okay, thank you. So we'll share that comment again with City of LA folks for your request. You know, Scott, there was another question that I don't know if we were able to address. That it just occurred to me about the City of LA, which was the potential upzoning that the BRT, or the perception that the BRT would bring upzoning with the implementation of this project, meaning that it would allow for, I guess, high rises or anything else to happen like that. You know, can you address that briefly before we go into our next questions?
Sure, yeah, and this is something that's come up periodically from when we started this project. First off, a metro does not have any authority over zoning. That's something that the city of LA controls in conjunction with the communities that they work with to sort of figure out what zoning is appropriate for the corridor. I would also add that there is a Colorado Boulevard specific plan that is in place. It is it's still in effect, and it would apply regardless of whether the BRT were to come in or not. So. Yeah, that's sort of the high level answer to that. And we Metro, we don't own any property along the corridor, so we don't have any joint development plans or anything like that. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Again, let's go to our next three questions. Three folks that are asking questions. We have Stephen Kia, followed by John G, followed by Ryan G. So Stephen, if you can unmute yourself, you're able to speak.
Hi, this is Stephen Kia. Thank you very much for this presentation. It's been very helpful, actually, to get the broad overview. I would echo some of the thoughts about the timing of this presentation being particularly inconvenient for parents who are trying to get their kids ready for the evening. But as it so happens, I'm able to be on the call, and so I appreciate this. I am a co-owner of Rock Coffee House over on Yosemite and Townsend in Eagle Rock, and I've been invested as a stakeholder in this community for over 20 years. I'm also one of those PTA dads that signed on to the Beautiful Boulevard proposal, and have a couple of kids in Eagle Rock Elementary. I just wanted to echo my support for the Beautiful Boulevard proposal and for the refinements as they've been included by Metro. I like to bike with my kids, and I'm also an avid runner. And so the idea of taking my kids out for a bike ride and a run along that stretch of Colorado Boulevard terrifies me as it's set up right now. And so I'm really happy to see the protected bike lanes in particular. One thing I would like to see is, as has been mentioned, the sidewalk level protected bike lanes as something that we would definitely put into use as members of the community. Definitely running alongside my kids as they ride in the protected bike lane is something I could just really look forward to. So that's my comments, and I guess I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for your comments. So the next folks to speak will be John G, Ryan G, and then Jose Alabaso. So John, if you can unmute yourself, you're able to speak.
Yes, hi, thank you. Thank you, Tito. Thank you, Scott. I'm an Eagle Rock homeowner, live up on College View, so I guess that qualifies me as a real stakeholder. I just want to echo my support for the Beautiful Boulevard project and the proposal here. I think it's a once in a generation opportunity to transform Colorado into a pedestrian, family, and business friendly space. I would echo some earlier comments about incorporating first mile, last mile options and the Rock the Boulevard plan into the design of this project. As been mentioned many times, biking on Eagle Rock Boulevard and Colorado Boulevard are quite hazardous right now. If we are able to create safe spaces for bikes, my family, we're showing up at work every day, buying some coffee. We're showing up at Milk Farm every day, buying some lunch. I think this is a huge opportunity for Eagle Rock, and I really, really support this project.
Thank you, John. Next folks to speak will be Ryan G, followed by Jose Alabaso, followed by Sylvia Blackstone. So Ryan G, can you unmute yourself? You're able to speak here?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, yeah, I'm a relatively new homeowner in Eagle Rock, and so I we staked our roots here, but and one of the reasons kind of why we moved here was the future access to transit. So especially with the BRT. So I'm several houses off Colorado, and yeah, it's something that I'm very excited about, and one of the reasons why I wanted to be a part of the Eagle Rock community. I think I was just curious. I know a few of listeners have had some questions about the stakeholder meetings that you've had, and about like what Eagle Rock Forward, what Beautiful Boulevard, who was behind that, and I wonder if you could just clarify kind of what stakeholders you involved in these meetings, just so the community can kind of know, who was a part of that and what thinking went into that, and then additionally. For the traffic questions as well. I know you spoke a lot in the presentation about the lights for the buses and how they might have priority in certain sections. I just was curious about, people had questions about congestion. Would there be any signal changes, and how would we mitigate potential backups with a single lane, with new signaling or new lanes or something like that facilitate getting the traffic through further.
Thank you for your questions. I'll bring Scott in, but first let me provide a brief response to the stakeholder groups that were invited. Again, notification for the stakeholder groups was to representatives that we've worked with prior that have been participating in meetings such as the Eagle Rock Neighborhood Council members. We also sent invitation to the Eagle Rock Chamber, Eagle Rock Forward, the Eagle Rock Association, also Eagle Rock 411 members. We sent messages, and we sent invites. Again, we asked for them to send representatives. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get representatives from all the groups, but we did reach out to as many as possible. We also engaged with local electeds to try to also push for involvement in these stakeholders. But again, this today is another stakeholder roundtable. This is again your opportunity to listen and to hear what we've presented, and to provide your comments. We are getting your comments. We're writing them down. We are getting a lot of questions about potential traffic impacts, specifically in Colorado, in Eagle Rock and Colorado. We are taking that information down, and again, we will continue to take all the information and all your comments as we move forward. So again, this is your additional stakeholder meeting that we're having with everybody. So we appreciate any and all comments that are being received here. Scott, can you address or speak to the potential signal priority with the implementation of a BRT bus, and how that could work in the area to improve or to work with signalized bus improvements?
Sure. I'll just say that a transit signal priority is a big component of this project. It's something we intend to implement along the whole stretch of the corridor. But I'd actually like to turn it over to Brent to speak a little bit more specifically about some of the phasing improvements and signal timing improvements that maybe could help things flow a little bit better.
Right. So the transit priority, it's City of Los Angeles along Colorado and Eagle Rock. So the city transit priority can provide the green light to come up a little bit early if there's a bus that's approaching the intersection that's detected. It can also hold over the green for a few seconds to allow a bus to make a signal, but it doesn't really change the overall timing plan. As far as the overall timing plan goes, anytime a project like this would be done, all those traffic lights would be retimed to conform to sort of the the traffic patterns that are prevalent with the project in place. And, you know, part of that would be trying to maintain a progression along the street to facilitate traffic flow. When the traffic lights are retimed, there's a travel speed that's considered, and you know, that travel speed would be appropriate to the design of the street as it's reconfigured.
Thank you, Brett. Again, we are approaching 7 o'clock, but we still have quite a few questions, so we will continue to go a little bit longer than our proposed end time, so we can get to these questions. But I do ask you again to please be as brief as possible, so we can get to all these folks. So the next person to speak will be Sylvia Blackstone, followed by Annette, and then Mayana Dellinger. So Sylvia, if you can unmute yourself, you're able to speak here.
Hello, Sylvia Blackstone. I've lived here for about 30 years. I live on North Avenue 51, which becomes Townsend Avenue. And I just wonder what planet you people actually live in. Because I'm 83 years old now, and let me tell you, the bike lanes are used as a speedway by motorcycles. Anybody else notice this? And the tree maintenance? Who is going to take care of all these trees and all these plants that you show in the pretty drawings? Because the city of LA constantly says they don't have money to maintain the medians and they turn brown. So, you know, and who's going to fix the irrigation when it goes haywire and starts squirting into the street and into the cars? So that's a little coordination with the city of Los Angeles. And just personally, me getting to Eagle Rock and getting up and down the street, I'm going to stop. I'm going to go to the, I'm not going to ride the transit because I live really close. So me as a user of that street is not going to be helped by these big buses and the hordes of people riding the bus that live elsewhere that are going to be clogging up like my street that I use. So it's really personal to me. And how am I going to get to the Eagle Rock Bakery? And how am I going to get to Trader Joe's? And how am I going to get to my mechanic on Eagle Rock Boulevard? And how am I going to get to Target? I mean, I've already figured out ways to get around the neighborhood to avoid these very sections of Colorado Boulevard that you're talking about clogging up even further. And if you think of traffic as a flow, and you think of water as a flow, common sense will tell you that you cannot get in the way of water when it's heading downhill. And if you block water, it just goes sideways and it goes elsewhere and it floods elsewhere. And that's what people are trying to tell you about this traffic, is that if you create a congestion, if you create a blockage, let me tell you, the body is going to get sick. And the whole neighborhood is going to get sick with all these cars zooming around. And everybody on their little Waze directional instructions on their computer, on their handheld device that they're looking at instead of traffic. That traffic is going to go someplace, and it's going to go all over the neighborhood, and it's going to slow down everything. And I'm 83 years old. There's a dash bus that comes right by my house. It is so, it's not something you want to ride unless you're desperate, because you have to negotiate the stairs and step into the street. And it's not, I mean, I'm not getting out of my car until I get to the Trader Joe's parking lot, which is not easy. And that's my feedback. And I'm a real person and I live here.
Thank you, Sylvia. I did catch that that you did have a question about tree maintenance and whatnot. Scott, is that something you can address about that? I think they were mostly comments, but she did ask who would be maintaining the trees and any landscaping that would come with this project.
Well, there will be quite a bit of new and replaced landscaping as part of this project, including in Eagle Rock. So I think to some extent the maintenance requirements of sort of the newer landscaping that's put in there may be less than some of the older existing issues with some of the medians and some of the existing landscaping. As far as maintenance goes, I mean, we'll be responsible for maintaining the stations. That's our primary focus, and maybe some other avenues related to the BRT.
All right, thank you, Scott. Again, it's a little bit after 7 o'clock, but we'll continue to take on a few more questions so we can answer as many as possible or take comments. Annette, you're next to speak, followed by Mariana Dillinger, followed by G. The initial just G. So Annette, if you can unmute yourself, you're able to speak.
Yes, I did. Hi, my name is Annette. I've lived here since I was 5 years old, and I now have great-grandchildren, so I've been in Eagle Rock for a long time. Anyway, I want to thank Brian, David, Kim, Patricia, Cheryl, Barbara, and Silva. Okay, also, you know, we're in the orange tier now, and since we're in the orange tier, the schools are going to be opening again, people are going to be going back to work, and the traffic or lack thereof that we've enjoyed for the last year due to COVID is going to be increased a lot. And we've been using Yosemite because Colorado's already a mess. And now with this Eagle Rock High School opening up again, that takes care of trying to use Yosemite. We do know where a few alleys are, those of us who've lived here for a long time, but we shouldn't have to do that. Also, I'm wondering, besides the congestion and the police and fire and paramedics and all that other stuff, and what happens when there's something, a police action, an accident, or a fire on the freeway, that's all been pretty much taken care of, or addressed. Sierra Villa transition to Eagle Rock Boulevard, I don't see a picture of that. I don't know how cars can get from Colorado Boulevard East onto the 134 East with the buses being in the middle of that. You don't show, let me see what else here. Yeah, how they change from the medium to the side and vice versa. And it would be really, really nice if this whole project went anywhere near the Burbank Bob Hope Airport, because that would be one thing that I would take this bus for. It's the only thing I would. I live 2 blocks from Colorado Boulevard, but I live on a hill, and there's no way that I could walk down to it and get back up. And I don't think there's going to be anywhere for people to park and ride. So I see no upside to this whole project. Maybe just for me. But I want to just be able to say my piece because I've said it before. I've been to Oxy, I've been to Yosemite Park to meetings, I've been to the Plaza to meetings. I've spoken personally with Hilda Solis, and obviously he is listening. And I want to know when you're going to have the next meeting like this, so that we can have another chance to talk. And thank you for letting me talk because I waited this whole 2 hours to do it. And thank you for doing this, and thank you to the people who have the same, who share my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. Thank you again. I think we received plenty of your comments that you mentioned. You echoed a few of the concerns that were brought up again about congestion and the one lane in parts of Colorado Boulevard and Eagle Rock. Again, that's being noted. As far as meetings and when we will be doing this, again, this is our opportunity here to hear and to speak with everybody. There will also be opportunities when we take this to the Metro Board in May. That'll be another opportunity to speak and provide your comments and opinions about the project. But again, we are taking all these comments into consideration. We're still going a little bit after 7 p.m. So let's go to the next 3 folks, which is Mariana Dillinger, followed by G, followed by Andrew Jacobs. So Mariana, you're able to unmute yourself. You can please speak.
Yes, hi, my name is Mariana Dillinger, and I hope you can hear me. I'm sure you can. I live on Hill Drive, and respectfully, everyone, this is not a matter of how long you've lived here, so I'm not going to mention how long I've lived here. I note how many people have lived, how long they've been here, and I also note that new residents have interests and stakes too. So I broadly support this project of getting public transportation in, of course, as we know that is the future. And so we also need to look into, and there's not much time to comment on that here tonight, but even into broader pedestrian areas, sidewalks, or what about even eventually figuring out a way of maybe closing traffic? I know that sounds provocative, and I know that might not be possible. here, but we know that international examples or national examples of where traffic is limited leads to more attractive areas, rising house prices, which we all like, right? More business. So let's learn from world history in this respect. If not, look at Times Square, Santa Monica's 3rd Street Promenade, and so on and so forth. We know that enabling individualist traffic just creates more traffic. That's a fact, and I presume we go from science and facts here. About the median, so I do echo a little bit of the concern of the parallel parking. So what about narrowing the median? Let's just be honest here, folks. I know we all love trees and stuff, but it is kind of ugly right now. So a compromise think that it could be narrower and improved. There's no shade right now. We all saw the pictures. Let's just be real. It doesn't look that good right now, and maybe we're just gonna have to let part of that go and not have mature shade trees, because it is true there's a lot of grass, and maybe we should look into having more cactuses and climate change too. Will, as somebody said, cause for there to be more irrigation, which really isn't what we should do right now. Quickly, about the people that say that they're overwhelmed about the meeting being held right now, and there's times of COVID. So another way of looking at that is there's more time right now for these kind of meetings that there's ever been. So I'm glad to see that life and these meetings that are held under the law are not stopped because of COVID. So online is the future too. And finally, I'd like to say to my fellow residents and citizens and others of this meeting, kindly be more respectful of all of us. So I've heard a lot of comments earlier about how you're presuming that only activists are here. Is that bad? Or that there's no stakeholders here without any proof of that? There's more than 220 people here. And most people I've spoken to are not being an activist is not the legal standard here. About Eagle Rock Forward and other allegedly small groups, yes, this is how a democracy works. This is private group advocacy. Everyone can do that. You're all welcome to do that. But to be honest, to claim that some groups should have more powers than others, and those, let's just be honest, tend to be the not in my backyard, the NIMBY folks, should have more powers than others. In other words, those of us that want to see this project go forward. That is not the law, and that's not the future, and that's not who we are. So folks, I realize change is painful at many levels, but painful change is also necessary. And this is obviously one of those necessary changes that I broadly applaud. And I'm glad to see that the law is followed here and that these meetings are held. That's public participation, that's environmental impact statements and public and feedback. And you cannot presume that just because things don't work out the way you might like to individual and like things have been for the past 40 years, that other people don't broadly support this project and support it, because we do. And that's just how modern democracy works. So yes, let's get some public transportation in. We know that's the future. And I too am a bike rider. I too support much more, bike riding, raised bike levels or whatever. Let's learn from other places, Europe, other places in this nation, and go forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Again, and I'm going to continue on with these questions. Again, we're going to try to take as many as possible. So next three people are G, followed by Andrew Jacobs, followed by Darren Hall. So G, you're able to unmute yourself. You can start asking your questions, please. Again, we're limited on time, so appreciate brevity, but thank you.
We'll try to make this quick. I live in Eagle Rock, and I hate to say it, but I don't really think that the people that live outside of Eagle Rock should have a really big say in whether Eagle Rock goes from 2 lanes to 1 lane. It's not their neighborhood that's going to be affected. I mean, I agree there should be a rapid bus line maybe through Eagle Rock, but I would prefer that it be right lane and mixed use, running with traffic instead of ripping up the medians, so leaving the 2 lanes. As far as the stakeholder meetings go, you said that there were 60 or so people that you had, or 60 groups you had that were stakeholders. What about the 7? I just, based on like 10 houses on a block, 2 blocks up, 2 times, or both sides of the street, there's approximately 7,602 houses along Colorado Boulevard, north and south of Colorado, just between the plaza and Trader Joe's. There's at least that many houses. Have you guys sent direct mailers to ask the residents as to just whether they would prefer a single lane, a double lane, center median buses, right median buses? Have you done anything like that, an individual mailing to individual houses that would actually get you the results of the people that actually live in Eagle Rock that might not be aware of the program or the process you're changing? I don't know why Glendale and Burbank can have side running lanes with mixed use. I don't understand why that would be such a hellacious problem here in Eagle Rock. But Scott was talking about 2 lanes of traffic going down to 1 at Colorado Boulevard and Eagle Rock Boulevard. What happens with that other lane of traffic? When you have 2 lanes full of people and it merges to 1 lane, what do you do with all the traffic from the other lane? Where does it go? It's got to go someplace. So, you know, what happens if a delivery truck pulls up and blocks that 1 lane? I know Trader Joe's, I usually drive through Eagle Rock at 6 in the morning on my way to work. And a lot of times Trader Joe's has trucks out in the median waiting to get in to deliver. They actually use that space to maneuver their trucks into their delivery area. So I don't know how you're going to affect Trader Joe's beyond that. I have also the 134 traffic closures. How do you deal with that? Anytime there's an accident on the freeway, you're going to close the brakes on a lot of the medians. So how do you deal with if you've got fewer opportunities to make a left-hand turn to get into your neighborhood? That means you're going to have longer lines for people at the opportunities where you do have an opportunity to turn left. What happens to the people when they start backing up that 1 lane of traffic? One of my other issues was with the let's see, will Metro pay to replace all this if they realize that 1 lane of traffic is not going to be feasible? Yeah, those are my questions.
Thanks for your question. So again, it looks like your questions are about all, traffic impacts and whatnot. So Scott, can you address about what I guess what how we could better address it? He also asked that one question towards the end is, will we go from 1 to 2 lanes if it doesn't work, and how does something like that work?
Well, I think as far as that last question is concerned, I mean, I think once we've built the project, we'll have an opportunity to see how well it works. I mean, we wouldn't design something and plan it and implement it if it didn't work for the BRT and work in conjunction with the other elements as we're planning it out. One thing I do want to clarify is that it was mentioned in Burbank and Glendale, where we have bus lanes. I want to just clarify that there are dedicated bus lanes proposed in Burbank and in Glendale along virtually the entire stretches of the streets of those respective corridors. In the case of Burbank, it would be in a curb running configuration, occupying what is currently the parking lane. And then in Glendale, in every case, we would be converting a travel lane, whether it's adjacent to the medians on Glen Oaks or in a side running configuration on Broadway and Central, where we would basically operate in what is currently the outside travel lane adjacent to the parking lanes. As far as traffic impacts go, I think we've touched on some of those issues already, but I would like to ask Brent to weigh in on sort of the implications for left turns and closing the median breaks and what that means for the number of left turns that we would be proposing to keep open.
Well, yes. So first of all, there are 31 intersections along the corridor there, and the closures would be limited to just about a third of them. The other 2/3 would be partly or fully open. And the other thing is that when the reconfiguration of the median takes place, we'll be replacing what are just simply gaps in the median in some places with actual left turn pockets that will be protected left turns with an arrow phase. So cars would find it more easy to make U-turns and left turns at those locations that would be open. So the efficiency of the left turns would actually be improved by better design.
Thank you, Brent. Again, we got some more folks to speak up. Again, we have, looks like we may have lost somebody, but we have, so we'll go into the next, and if the person that was on comes back on, we'll add you. But we have Darren Hall, followed by MITTIM, followed by Christine. So Darren, if you can unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Darren Hall, and I'll lower my hand there. Thank you, everyone, for the presentation this evening. I just wanted to say I'm very pleased to see that Metro has incorporated many of the elements of the Beautiful Boulevard proposal for Eagle Rock. I am an Eagle Rock resident, as well as an employee at Occidental College. So I also work in Eagle Rock, and I wanted to echo or just amplify a bit that some of the supporters of that Beautiful Boulevard project include many of the student organizations at Occidental College, and our student population as well as our employees have a lot of potential here to make use of the BRT to come to work, or for students to go out to employment opportunities, internship opportunities along the route. So I see this as a really useful project that will reduce a lot of the traffic for those communities. But as it was mentioned, some of that will also depend on effective first last mile treatments along Eagle Rock Boulevard. And the last thing I guess I would just say is I'd like to encourage Metro to continue to explore the opportunity to use the left boarding bus options, and so that we would have platforms in the medians that were for both directions. I think that would be a considerable improvement for the plan overall, for safety and for the transit riders, so they're not dispersed to different platforms. But otherwise, looking forward to it, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up to speak will be Mitim 80, followed by Christine, followed by Karen So. So Mitim, if you're able to unmute yourself, you're permitted to speak.
Hi, I'm Julian Haynes. Sorry I couldn't get my name up. I'm a central Los Angeles resident who uses transit and bicycles to get around, and I'll be using this project a lot. My comments and questions about the project relate to a certain section in Burbank where the line is projected to, or is drawn as, well, first of all, taking the mixed traffic lanes on the 134 freeway, and then second, actually using the existing entrances and exits in the vicinity of Hollywood Way and Alameda Avenue to come off the freeway and come eventually onto Olive Avenue. And my concern is when Metro was running the I think it was the 501 pilot line that was actually intended in a way to test the test various aspects of this project beforehand with existing infrastructure. I actually rode that line, and it was, and the one thing that stood out to me the most was that when you were going through that very section, with getting off the Ventura Freeway at Alameda and Hollywood Way, that was where the bus kind of was held up the most, especially at rush hour. And I would estimate that, altogether, like waiting in line for the entrance and exit to the freeway, waiting at the various traffic signals around there, it would have added, I think it adds like 5 minutes all in all compared to, a more direct, dedicated route for the BRT. And so considering how there are other, well, this of course, this freeway is owned by Caltrans, and on another freeway, the 110 freeway, there's an example of, a dedicated, on-ramps and off-ramps for the BRT, the Silver Line BRT. particularly at the north end at Adams Boulevard and at the south end when you're going into the Harbor Gateway Transit Center. There's actually a specific ramp that is dedicated for the use of the bus and high occupancy vehicles, which avoids, which kind of circumvents this problem already. And I know like something like that implemented here would add significantly to the cost, but considering how this is branded as a premium transit service, in the likes of Metro Rail and the Orange Line, I think if you're going to build one structure, it would have to be here. You could actually, with the dedicated structure, I think it would save 5 minutes or even more at rush hour. So my question is would it be possible, if Metro had the money, would it be possible or impossible for Metro to construct a dedicated, to engineer and construct a dedicated on-ramp and off-ramp for the BRT in the vicinity of, Alameda Avenue and Hollywood Way? Or would it be impossible? And if it is impossible, then why is it?
So I'll say that early on we did look at sort of the possibilities of dedicated on and off ramps at various locations along the corridor, and a number of them had feasibility issues from a right-of-way standpoint. I know, Brent, do you want to sort of weigh in specifically on some of the challenges surrounding getting on and off the freeway in Burbank?
Well, we're taking advantage in some cases of existing diamond lanes on the ramps. So there are some diamond bypasses on some of the ramps that would be used. Notably there's a diamond lane, coming in off the slip ramps in Eagle Rock, and there's others further to the west. The issue with the particular location of Alameda and Hollywood Way, the backup there is primarily caused by the actual congestion along the freeway itself. So just improving the ramp there wouldn't really address the problem without, reconfiguring the entire freeway for quite some distance, which clearly is, cost prohibitive. I did want to indicate that we did look at a service street alternative to that segment, and despite the congestion on the freeway still was much better travel time than the parallel service street route.
Thank you, Brent. Again, we are short on time. We're pretty close to wrapping up here. So let's get to as many questions. We have Christine, followed by Karen So, followed by Andrew Jacobs. Christine, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Again, we're asking for brevity so we can be able to answer as many questions as possible with the limited time here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to say just a few words. I just want to thank you for all of this work and for bringing forward a project that really moves Los Angeles closer to our Vision Zero priorities and closer to true equity. I have lived in Los Angeles without a car. As a student, I can't tell you the number of times I waited alone at a dark bus stop, hoping my bus would come from a late class to get me home safely. I was able to take my first job in my field because the Orange Line existed, and as a BRT that I could count on, I was able to commute like a huge number of miles to take that job. Like, I cannot say how important it is that we have this safe alternative. I want to just give a shout out to, please, let's not disregard the left side boarding. I know it's not what Metro does most right now, or all the buses are right side, but just because something is one way doesn't mean that's the right way. And as a mom, who's continued to use transit, I can speak from personal experience of like disembarking from the number 2 bus downtown with a child in a stroller, and then not being able to find the return bus and walking blocks and blocks with a baby in my arms. And you can't underestimate the elegance and the simplicity and the safety of what that left side boarding would offer us, and the density, like, so station can be combined and you have quick access to your coming and going. So I really just want to please say, please, let's keep that in the dialogue. And I also just want to speak out as a person who pre-pandemic commuted by bicycle to work in Eagle Rock. What Deborah Murphy brought up about the need for truly complete streets and connectivity. Riding down Eagle Rock Boulevard to Colorado is a really deadly way to go. And I have had a number of near misses because of people putting their trash cans in bike lanes, parking in bike lanes, filming, taking up bike lanes. Like, let's bring the gold standard, right? Why can we not just, like, when we're doing all this work, let's elevate those lanes, let's have it be really safe. We do not need to lose another human being on a bicycle being struck and killed by a car. So let's just bring our best and try to find elevated bike lanes and protected bike lanes. And I just want to say, so the basic message is, please keep this centered on transit users. Like, we are stakeholders, right? Whether we're commuting to and from or using it to try not to drive, we are the stakeholders. And thank you for connecting our city in the way that we need to, and keep this dialogue going. And I just, for the record, since I didn't get my name updated, I want to specify that as an individual, I'm also representing the East Area Progressive Democrats Transit Committee, and you've received our letter. But for anyone who's still listening on here, our group is 1,000 members strong. We have a lot of Eagle Rock residents. Many of them are seniors, and we had a unanimous support of this proposal, the Beautiful Boulevard proposal. And thank you for including as much as you can of that. And please, let's make it work that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, we have, let's keep going. We're going to go with Karen So, followed by Andrew Jacobs, followed by Fred X 2000. So Karen, you are able to unmute yourself. You're permitted to speak here.
Thank you, Mr. Corona. Thank you also, Mr. Hartwell and Mr. Ogden, for hearing some of the comments. And I'm going to just say that I concur with what David, and I think I also heard David Newman and Brian, Nurse Barbara, Silva Blackstone. I hear their concerns and I share their concerns. My first question will be for the MTA staff to answer. Are there public MTA documents regarding the ridership decrease on Colorado Boulevard in Eagle Rock before and after the pandemic? My second question will be, does the MTA have a security plan in place for the BRT, for all the plans that are involved in the MTA's program to put the BRT in effect? And what is the security plan? Are there public documents regarding that? And what was the outreach to disabled passengers who use MTA's access stands? I know that the MTA has a board or some sort of advisory committees. And I believe, what's her name? In any event, I'll leave her name out, but I could get you her name. Regarding the outreach that's done for the accessibility of the bus for disabled passengers. So I'll limit my questions to that because I do appreciate that I was able to ask these questions.
Thank you. Scott, again, can you address the question that was asked about if we have documentation about ridership before and after the pandemic on Colorado?
Well, as an agency, we're always tracking our ridership for each of our bus lines, sort of the daily boardings at each station that we have, or each stop that we have along the route. So we certainly, that data does exist. We do track it. To what extent it's been published by line specifically, I don't necessarily have an answer to that, Tito. I don't know if you do. But yeah, that data certainly is out there.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we have our service planning folks who monitor and track on a monthly basis what the ridership numbers are. And I, as I stated earlier on in this meeting, was that our ridership has been affected during COVID. It's slowly on the rise again, but again, it's been primarily for folks who are transit dependent. There was another question, Scott, about the security plan put forth on the BRT Is there a plan, or what's I guess I'm trying to get more information as to what type of security plan we would have on a BRT moving forward with this project?
Well, I mean, we would apply our same security standards that we have across our entire system, with just making sure that our stations are safe and well lit. Lighting is a big component of that. So there wouldn't really be any difference in that regard. We would certainly do everything we can to make sure that our riders are safe, both on the buses and at the stations. But we don't have like a specific security plan for this project. At this point, it's been a focus on the environmental review and evaluating how the BRT could work and what the potential impacts of that could be.
Thank you, Scott. And I'll speak to the to outreach to disabled passengers. That's another opportunity that we will definitely work harder at reaching. We did have the stakeholder database that for previous attendees that we send the e-blast to with the constant reminders. We also canvassed 15,000 notifications and specifically in the Eagle Rock community about this meeting, with QR codes for people to scan with their phones or any type of device that can scan them to help and join this meeting if possible. But again, we look for partnerships and opportunities to always improve, and that this is one of those that we'll have to work on with accessing working with disabled passengers and any additional riders that use our service. Again, times are a little bit more challenging right now with COVID, and it's been an ordeal at many times when trying to get our passengers involved. Again, many of them have very strict schedules, just like many of you here that are with us today. So, we will continue to engage with everybody. So it looks like we have Andrew Jacobs, followed by Fred X, followed by CB Fuji. So Andrew Jacobs, if you can, I'm trying to see how I can unmute you so you can speak. Here we go. You're permitted to unmute yourself now. If you can speak, please.
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect, great. Yeah, so I'm a stakeholder. I'm a real person. I live here. I own a home here in Eagle Rock live where I live with my wife and son. We're about a block off Colorado, so we've been paying attention to this very closely. We are a one-car household, and my wife works in NoHo, so we're really excited about this project and to potentially use it. I wish it were coming sooner. I do want to add that I think a lot of people with kids and jobs, 5 to 7 is the toughest time of the day to make a meeting. So it does make me happy to have heard earlier that the various PTAs are supporting the Beautiful Boulevard project, because that shows me that there are other parents and with young kids who are having their voices heard, even though they can't make this meeting because they're trying to get home from work and trying to get dinner, kid and bath, and all that stuff. I do want to say that I do support the Beautiful Boulevard proposal. I think it will make Colorado safer for pedestrians, bikers, and drivers. I too often see traffic going just way too fast on Colorado Boulevard. So anything that calms traffic, I think, is a good thing. I am really excited about the potential of widening the sidewalks, making it more pedestrian friendly and inviting, and potentially allowing for more al fresco dining, because I think that'll be an important part of businesses going forward after the pandemic. And I think it'll be really nice to sit on a nice outside on a nice boulevard, having a drink or eating dinner or whatever. The only other thing I would say is, I think I've heard a lot of people sort of talk about, concerns about traffic, and I totally understand that. I think if anything, that's the community's #1 concern with the Beautiful Boulevard proposal is how will it impact traffic. And so I look forward to seeing the numbers and the studies you guys sort of come back with on that. I do think that people who say that traffic is already insane on Colorado Boulevard today strike me as people who may not be commuting to NoHo back and forth every day, or to Santa Monica every day. That's traffic. What we have in you know, on Colorado is an occasional backup. So, you know, and the only other thing I'll say is, like, I'm pretty sure I've seen it and I suspect it'll happen. If there's a parallel parker kind of doing a bad job at trying to get into their spot, people will probably slip around into the bus lane and go around them, and traffic won't, you know, end up going too far back. So I, you know, look forward to hearing more about the proposal as it comes together. I look forward to seeing the numbers and the statistics on, you know, how it might impact traffic. But I do think that this proposal has a lot to offer to the community. I think it'll benefit businesses and the people who live here, and also the people who are coming here to work here and all that good stuff. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll go on to the next few folks. Again, we're going to try to take as many questions as still possible, but we, again, we're almost 40 minutes after the conclusion of the scheduled conclusion of this meeting. So please, if you can be as brief as possible so we can either answer or take your comments, that'd be great. So the next three are FredX 2000, CV Fushi, and Mary. FredX, I'm sorry I forgot your name from November, but I do remember your username. So if you can unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, I've been a long-term resident here, and I think that does count for something. I've been here for 22 years, and fairly close to Colorado, and I've been walking on that street with my dogs and whatnot over the years, and it's fun. And the beautification plan is really, really nice, and I think it would be a real nice thing if it could be maintained, have good bus stops. Nothing kills me more than seeing people sitting out in the hot sun waiting for a bus. And we've got already many buses that run up and down on Colorado. With the coronavirus and everything, the craziness that's gone on, I kind of missed a couple of scenes in the movie here because like I'm still pushing for the 134 and using Figueroa as a station, and possibly Harvey. And I don't know why that is not being considered. I've seen I drive for work, and have seen the traffic over the years. And yeah, right now we're having a treat, but also Yosemite with the high school. It's like I basically had to work around everything with those things in mind. By making it one lane, it's really absolutely ludicrous. And I just can't see where anyone would even acquiesce to that. I know the street. I know the traffic here. I've been here a long time. And I just think that the 134 option, wherever it went and whatever happened with that, I think that should be back on the table. And the overwhelming majority of the people that I speak to, who are residents, homeowners, business owners, are very much against this whole damn thing. And I think that we can do better. We can do better by beautifying the boulevard. Sure, that's great. Put nice bus stops and whatnot for the existing buses, but then put a nice station over in Figueroa and utilize that and use the 134. Because as was said, when there's an accident, even when the floats come out from Glendale to go to the Rose Parade, they come down Colorado. It just is a very poor idea. And I understand the knowledge and the education that people have that are doing this, but I have a good feeling that they don't live here. And anyway, and as far as the zoning, yeah, that's something with the city. However, it's kind of a hand-in-hand thing, that's going to happen, and then that will happen. And there's a lot of people that are invested in that and hoping for that. So we can't ignore that. It's not, because that's the city, it's not going to, have anything to do with Metro. What the heck? It's going to stop. How about a moratorium if this thing goes through in any form? A moratorium on building for 20 years. Anything over than, 2 or 3 stories? 2 stories, I think. Anyway, I could babble on and on because I've been to a few of these meetings, 3 of these meetings, and another Zoom one, and I found, I found a lot of disingenuous people representing something that they really have no stake in, and it's real. It's real It's a real problem. Anyway, well, thanks so much for giving me a chance to talk, and I appreciate it. And the beautification thing, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. So the next three folks will be CB, Fauci, Mary, and Leslie. So CB, you are permitted to unmute yourself. You can speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. Yeah, I'm a 20-year resident here in Eagle Rock. Greatly appreciate your time and thank you for going over. And thank you for the presentation. I'm also a parent, walk in the neighborhood, have a kid, and I'm also a commuter. Well, pre-COVID was a commuter, was driving close to 3 hours a day commuting. And that has changed with COVID, as I imagine other people's jobs have changed since the pandemic. That said, I'll go into my questions that I have. Will the BRT be involved in the peerless system initiative that Metro is proposing? That's question number one. Two, where are the other buses going to travel along the route? Are they going to utilize the BRT lane, and specifically in Eagle Rock? And how will that affect the multiple stops that the existing buses make, as opposed to 3 stops that will be in Eagle Rock for the BRT? My third question is, when the final ERE is proposed in May, I believe I heard, will alternative 2 be proposed in conjunction with the proposed routes for the BRT? A fourth question, the sidewalk, there are currently sidewalk improvements going on in Eagle Rock. Is Metro involved in these? Is this a Metro project, or is this a city project? And if it is a city project, are they being done in conjunction with and in communication with Metro as far as the BRT goes? There are plant wells along Colorado Boulevard in the Eagle Rock area that have been empty for 13 years. These are the responsibility of the city or Metro? And I have another question. What is the enforcement of autos using the red lane? Is that a offense that is going to be enforced along the entire route? And what is the penalty for being in the red lane? I believe question number 7 here is, I heard representatives of politicians, council members here in the meeting. I did not hear any representatives from De Leon or a representative of his. Would you be able to verify if there is a representative of De Leon's office here? And then ultimately, someone had brought up about the slip ramp, HOV 134 East, Colorado, getting onto the freeway. That being one lane, the other lane for the bus. Where does the one lane that continues along through town towards Figueroa, and then when there's a light for the freeway and that traffic is backed up into the lane that's traveling through, what is going to be done about that particular traffic flow? And I believe that's all my questions, and I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, CB. Scott, did you get most of those questions? Let's start with the Fairless System initiative. This is still early, but would this qualify as one of the Fairless System projects?
Well, I mean, my understanding is it would apply to the entire system. Beyond that, I'm not sure. And I know that's still very early in the process, and that's just a study at this point. Whether that actually comes into fruition, I think, is still to be determined.
Right, and as I recall, again, it's early and the studies are still going on. And from what I hear is correct, implementation would, again, would be in certain zones, and then, I guess to see how it would work, basically like a pilot program. Question about buses utilizing the BRT lane. How can non-BRT buses use these lanes with multiple stops, and will they be able to use them and whatnot? How do we foresee that coordinating?
Yeah, so corridor wide, local buses, the other buses that are on these streets, will have the opportunity to share with the bus lanes. Now, depending on what type of configuration is involved on a given street, will in a large extent determine whether it's practical for some of these local buses to share in those bus lanes. Take Eagle Rock, for example. On the western zone, where we're proposing the side running configuration, yes, the existing bus lines will be able to utilize those lanes and then make their stops as they normally would. As far as the center running portion goes to the east of Eagle Rock Boulevard, there would most likely the local buses would not be utilizing those lanes. And the main reason for that is because these other buses tend to stop more frequently. And so it wouldn't really be practical for them to get into the dedicated bus lane in the middle of the street where there's only a couple of stations that are spread out and then have to kind of make their way back to the curb. So they would, in all likelihood, continue using the curb stops in that particular location.
Thanks, Scott. And a question about the sidewalk improvements with the city and who's doing that. I think I can prove those, but pretty much that's a city project. But coordination with the BRT project is. Can you confirm that we're coordinating with the city on this?
Yeah, we've been coordinating with them since the beginning of this project. And I would reemphasize that's one of the advantages of this refined F1 concept, is that it does work well with what the city is planning, especially as it relates to those curb extensions on the actual intersections, and it works much better than our original F1 concept did. So that's again one of the advantages of this refined concept.
All right, thanks. And let's see if we can speed through these other questions. The plant's empty. The plant's wells have been empty for 13 years. Is that Metro or city responsibility?
That's a city responsibility. Yeah, okay. They own the property.
Gotcha. And enforcement of autos and run lanes. We actually were recently asked about this, and I think there are assembly bill that is trying to make this enforceable with cameras on our BRT projects. So I guess I can just speak on that briefly by what I just said, but it's not enforceable right now. But if this assembly bill moves forward, from what I recall, that buses would be equipped with cameras to capture violations that which would be enforceable for citations. So again, it's not in effect yet, but there is an assembly bill out there that is looking to create such a possibility for this to be enforceable. And I think the last question was about Representative from De Leon's office. I'm sorry, I haven't been able to read through all of the persons that are on here, but they have been at other meetings as well. I just can't I can't go and read each person that is on here to confirm that if the De Leon's office is here, but they have been engaged and they are part of. Okay, yeah, we do have somebody. We have Sarah. Sarah is on from Kevin De Leon's office here. So thank you, Sarah, for joining us, Sarah Flattery. So that answered your question about that. And I think the last question was, where does the one lane to Figueroa go, Scott? I think that's the last one from the list that I captured.
Yeah, Brent, would you mind weighing in and kind of talking through what some of the implications are for traffic circulation right around where the bus would join up on the slip ramp?
Well, in the eastbound direction, one lane, the bus lane, has its own lane, and then the traffic also, there'd be opening up there into two lanes going east. In the westbound direction, the lane would be reduced approaching that slip ramp situation. So all the merge there will be resolved before the traffic would get into the heart of the district.
Okay, thank you. Brent. Let's keep going. We've got more questions from Mary, Leslie, Turnipseed, and then Mark Gwynn. So Mary, if you can unmute yourself, you're next to ask your questions.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I get pretty upset about this whole thing. And I have to say, I really agree with Brian and David who spoke earlier. I feel like Colorado Boulevard, they're trying to turn it into a clown car where they're going to stuff everything possible into this one street. I mean, it's not the Champs-Elysees, it's not Fifth Avenue, but they still want alfresco dining, they want parking, they want bike lane, they want trees, and a big fat bus. And then we're reduced to one lane of traffic. That's not going to be good. And I remember they were talking about keeping everything on the freeway. And I don't, again, somebody else asked you about that. Please ask your guy, Scott, what happened to the freeway option? I mean, the freeway, wasn't that built for stuff like that back in the 40s and 50s? Didn't they, displace homeowners to put the freeway in and also promise a sound wall that never went up? Could you do me a favor and ask Scott about that? What happened to the freeway option? Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Scott, can you address the freeway option? It's still there. It hasn't been removed. But again, I think what we're doing today is presenting what we are going to present to the Metro Board, and the Metro Board will make the final decision what we have. But can you further elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's right. So we do have an SR 134 option in the draft EIR. It was analyzed in the draft EIR. It's option F3. It includes a couple of potential stations, one at Harvey over on the west end, and then one over at Colorado and Figueroa. So we did analyze that. A couple of the primary challenges there is that from an accessibility standpoint, it really doesn't serve the community of Eagle Rock all that well, just because the stations are are so far from sort of the central activity centers within Eagle Rock. There's also an issue with the stations themselves. Over at the Harvey station, for example, the way it's configured, and the only way to get a station in there would be if we were to then continue the route on the freeway into Glendale, which we're not proposing to do, because then we would bypass all of sort of that south downtown part of Glendale. So if we were to then get off the street at Harvey and continue along Broadway as we're proposing, we would not be able to even have a station there. And then at Figueroa, yeah, we could have a station at Figueroa in Colorado. We did look at that. However, then that would require the buses to get off the freeway, come down to Figueroa, and then continue on the surface streets and get back on the freeway, and that would add a fair amount of time to the overall route compared to just continuing along Colorado.
All right, thank you, Scott. Again, please note that we're trying to answer as many questions as possible. People keep raising their hands, but again, we can't continue on with it all night. We are over an hour after the proposed end time of this meeting, and we are trying to answer as many questions as possible. We do appreciate the latest folks trying to be more brief, and we do appreciate the brevity, but we do want to make sure that we do get to capture your comments or your questions. So with that, let's go to Leslie, followed by Mark Gwynn, followed by John Kerr. So Leslie, if you could please unmute yourself and ask your questions.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much, Mr. Corona and Mr. Hartwell. I am an Eagle Rock resident now for 20 years. I have a lot of questions. Number one, I am concerned about your reduction to one lane on Colorado Boulevard in two directions. As it is extremely challenging to make left turns onto Colorado Boulevard. I'm wondering what you're going to do to remedy that situation. What do you envision as a solution to traffic that will eminently come from Colorado Boulevard into the neighborhoods? We have children that play in our neighborhoods, that ride bikes, skateboards. We have folks that walk through the neighborhoods. Are you planning to put stop signs in to slow that traffic as it creeps up into the neighborhoods and down into Townsend Boulevard, Yosemite Hill Drive, all of those? Number two, let's see here. Are you planning to remove any current bus lines that are running in the lanes that currently exist? Number three, as Barbara stated earlier, I had a very similar question. Have you considered at all running some type of simulation? I know for myself, I'm simply adding a few windows to my home right now. And I myself am thinking about some simulations and just taping off areas. I teach via Zoom, and I'm currently going to be welcoming some students into my classroom in a couple of weeks. So I myself am running simulations in my workplace to see what that's going to look like. I'm wondering if, because you're going to be affecting many, many more people, are you going to run some type of simulation before actually pushing the project through? You mentioned that if you did do a simulation, that would be up to the city of LA. I was wondering if you could be very specific about who in particular would be in charge of that type of simulation. My next question is, as that traffic, I think I addressed that with the stop signs and control of traffic as it creeps down and up into the neighborhoods. Let's see here. Oh, okay. I have attended many of your meetings. I do feel like we give our input, we are asking questions, we don't always get answers to our questions. We get to vent, but we don't always feel like we're being heard, I think, a lot of the time. I do also agree with the fact that I feel like you're trying to solve many different problems with just one solution, and it's not actually doing a great job of solving any of the problems really well, but sort of band-aiding a lot of different problems. Let's see here. And to not analyze drive times after putting in the BRT seems ridiculous, because I thought that was the whole point in the first place. My next question is, how many potential riders are you expecting that you will actually improve their lives overall, as opposed to the cost to those that are being negatively affected by your project? Have you addressed that or thought about that? And is the recording going to be available to those that were not able to attend this evening? And finally, will you be sending out pictures to your email list of the project that you have proposed? You also mentioned that the one lane option was not actually, didn't actually come about after the environmental impact report. It came about before the environmental impact report. So I'm wondering why that came about when you had run an environmental impact report, and of course the traffic should have been addressed. And that is the end of my questions.
Okay, thank you. Scott, if you can please answer as many of these questions as possible, starting with the reduction to one lane and the impacts anticipated. What's the solution on left turns that have been evaluated, and will there be stop sign and improvements in the neighboring area? Let's go to those first questions.
Yeah, and I think we did discuss this a little bit before, and Brent, feel free to weigh in on some of the overall implications for traffic congestions and potential spillover traffic. But I think overall, I mean, our focus is on Colorado Boulevard and making the BRT work well, not only the BRT, but work well in conjunction with traffic circulation in the area. So Brent, if you could speak a little bit more about that.
Well, we'll be looking more at the traffic circulation as the project is designed. The environmental process does not include traffic level of service as part of the criteria for the EIR. So the focus at this point in time is analyzing all of the impacts that are specified by environmental law. But we will be able to fine tune some of the design to adjust the configuration to the traffic on a moving forward basis. And that'll include addressing some of these issues like trying to facilitate getting cars in and out of parking spaces, dealing with loading zones, etc. Some of this stuff is still to come.
Thanks. Question, Scott, about service here. With the BRT, are we planning to replace any lines that are currently running through the area? Can you elaborate on that too?
Sure. So, in addition to the BRT, there's also simultaneously it's actually being rolled out right now on Metro's next gen bus plan, which is looking at reimagining bus service across LA County and looking at ways to make our service more efficient and match up with current demands and when and where people are traveling. And as part of that, and in conjunction with the BRT, there will be some consolidation along Colorado that's in the works. I think the main thing is that the existing rapid line 780 that currently operates on Colorado is actually going to be sort of merged with a little bit more robust version of the local 180 line, and then the BRT will sort of serve as more of that regional type line along this corridor.
Thank you, Scott. Let's see what else. I'm trying to see if I was able to capture all the questions, but how about the potential ridership? Can you address what's the projected ridership on this project?
Yeah, 35,000 daily riders projected for this project.
Okay, and do you have is that immediate, or is that projected within the next how many years after operation?
Yeah, so that's based on our modeling with a 2042 horizon, but the opening day ridership is still at about 30,000 daily boardings projected.
Okay, and here's another question about the simulation. Back to that question, who would be in charge of that if it were to be possible? Who would lead the charge? Is that something with us or city? And I guess the main question is how can it happen? And who would we work with?
Yeah, again, my first thought on that was that it would be a city of LA responsibility, since they're the ones who own the right of way, the street right of way. So my first thought would be to get connected with LA DOT.
Okay, thanks. And let me see what else we have here. Question about whether recordings be available up to today's meeting. The answer is yes. Once we were able to capture the recording, it'll be uploaded on the project webpage at metro.net/NoHo Pass BRT. And I think the last question that I can remember was about the one lane, how that came about before the draft DIR. Is there any more you can elaborate on that? And I guess the question is probably why wasn't it pursued back then or whatnot, as far as evaluating it during the draft DIR.
Yeah, so I answered that question earlier in the context of had we looked at it, had we considered that as a potential option to go down to one travel lane in each direction, as we ultimately are recommending elsewhere along the corridor. And so, yeah, we did look at that at sort of a higher level before we ultimately got into the environmental impact report. We had already done a lot of outreach up to that point in time during public scoping, especially when we first proposed possibly doing BRT along Colorado. We didn't at that point have any details on a potential configuration. So when we did a lot of that initial public outreach, just based on a lot of the comments we heard at that point, one of the primary goals, or one of the goals in implementing this project through Eagle Rock, was to be able to implement dedicated bus lanes on Colorado, but to do so in a way that would preserve the both travel lanes in each direction. And so that's what we ultimately had looked at as part of that draft environmental phase, as well as the freeway option, since a number of people had asked us to look at a freeway option during scoping. So we did ultimately add that as an option as well.
Thanks, Scott. Let's go on to the next questions. Again, if you have asked a question before, again, we asked you to lower your hand. We have quite a bit of people still up. We're after 8 p.m. here. We're past our third hour of this meeting. And again, thank you for those of you who have stayed in attendance. Again, if you joined us late, again, we answered quite a bit of questions, and then this recording will be available for you to view at a later time on the project webpage. So again, please be patient, but if you can be a little more brief with your questions so we can get to them, and please limit your questions. Again, we won't be able to take as many questions to be able to get to all the folks that are still have their hands raised. But again, if you have asked a question before, please lower your hand so we can just get to the folks that have not been able to ask their questions now. So with that, let's go to Mark Gwynn, followed by John Kerr, and then Rebecca. So Mark, if you could please unmute yourself.
Got it. Hi.
Hello.
I'm a real live Eagle Rock resident. My family and I have lived on Lolita Avenue since 2008. First, I really appreciate the work that your team has done to incorporate the Beautiful Boulevard ideas and to improve the design along Colorado, especially the elements that limit the traffic lanes in favor of pedestrian safety and bike use. I think the renderings look great. I think the design makes Eagle Rock look like a more desirable place to live or visit, not a place bisected by a 6-lane highway. We already have a highway running to our immediate north. So these are my questions. I'm wondering if Metro has performed any analysis of traffic rerouting, if you have supporting evidence for the concerns of residents regarding increased through traffic on side streets. This has been an ongoing item of discussion, and it feels very notional right now. We don't have any data to work with, so I understand why the concern exists. I can imagine it on a kind of common sense level, but I'm wondering, where's the data? The second question is, if you do expect traffic rerouting onto neighborhood streets, do you have mitigation plans? And the last question is regarding traffic. Have you considered adding parking garages to the east and west ends of Colorado so that non-residents can use shuttles to reach destinations within Eagle Rock and possibly reduce traffic on the boulevard? So thanks for this and all the other opportunities that you've given me and others to provide feedback. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Scott, can you address these questions, starting with the traffic rerouting study? It's been one, and what type of impacts would be anticipated?
Yeah, so as Brent touched on earlier, the CEQA, or the environmental impact report process, does not include that type of analysis. The metric used for transportation impacts in the environmental impact report is a vehicle miles traveled metric. That said, the city of LA does have its own requirements as far as traffic analysis goes, which is why we have done some analysis for the city, and we anticipate we would probably do some additional analysis, including a potential look at what kind of traffic might occur in some of the surrounding neighborhoods from Colorado based on an option like this. And again, that's outside of the environmental impact report, but something that we would continue to work with the city of LA on.
And I think another follow-up was about the mitigation plan for traffic, if it's been developed, or is there such a thing that could be looked into?
Yeah, that's something that I think would be looked into after we coordinate with the city of LA on it. Again, it wouldn't be a part of the environmental impact report as it relates to what some of these congestion effects could be, but yeah, we would coordinate with the city of LA on that.
Okay. And then the last question about parking garages on both ends of Eagle Rock. Is that something that is part of this project plan, or is that something that's being evaluated?
No, the goal here is to get as many people on the BRT as possible, so they don't have to use their cars for one. I mean, I wanted to stress that for one, but two, as far as parking garages go, there's a couple of challenges there. One, a lack of available property or right of way in order to construct such a garage, and two, it would almost certainly be cost prohibitive for us to look into structures themselves. I mean, again, our focus is on building a robust BRT that people can get to, either via first last mile type improvements to be able to sort of walk or bike or take another bus to get to access the BRT and to access Eagle Rock.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Okay, in the interest of time, let's go on to our next callers or folks that are on the line. And again, if you can limit your questions to two, so we can get through many more of these folks. I don't want to skip any. So we're going to go with John Kerr, followed by Rebecca Kalaskis, and then TH. So John Kerr, if you can unmute yourself, you're permitted to speak here.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you for staying late. My name is John Kerr. I am an Eagle Rock homeowner. Although I've only lived in the neighborhood for a little over 2 years now, not as long as some others, but I am a real life person. I'm also a real life bicycle commuter, commuting from my home in Eagle Rock in the before times to my job in Universal City. So I've had a lot of experience with the bike lanes and Colorado, in my time living here. I'm very grateful that Metro is no longer supporting the side running bus bike lanes. Losing those bike lanes would be, really terrifying to have to share with bikes, but primarily would also make a terrible transit experience for riders to have the buses slow down for cyclists in the lanes, obviously to be safe. And I think that we go back to that word at the very beginning of this presentation, which is premium service. And LA does need premium transit service, primarily to serve the needs of Metro's core users. The true stakeholders here are transit users who are already using the Metro bus system to get where they need to go. Those people are not necessarily always the same as many of the other Eagle Rock stakeholders who you've heard from tonight. I'm thinking particularly the people who work in Eagle Rock's wonderful restaurants or commute to their jobs in Pasadena, Glendale, or Burbank, what have you. So please, keep in mind that we want to make transit the best possible experience for the true stakeholders who use the system. Premium transit to me is transit with left side boarding for BRT in center lanes. This will again enable safer consolidated platforms that aren't separated by multiple blocks, as we've heard from multiple other commenters, particularly in downtown Eagle Rock. Having a consolidated station where riders want to be and where transit users need to get to, again, right at Eagle Rock and Casper is the right way to go. But also all the mixed uses will potentially slow down the route, which again degrades the transit experience, which again, we want to have the best transit experience possible for both our users and to, I guess, attract new riders. And I look over at our neighbor in San Bernardino with their SBX project. They have left center busing, so San Bernardino can procure those buses and make transit projects like that work. So can Los Angeles. Lastly, transit users are also cyclists and pedestrians, like myself. So as much as Metro has incorporated parts of the Beautiful Boulevard proposal, I think they can do more, particularly in downtown Eagle Rock. There was already discussion earlier this evening about us raising the bike lanes to the sidewalk level, and there's some concerns about cost and feasibility, but I do think that now is the time to take great action to make a world-class complete street with the sidewalk raised bike lanes. It would also have a benefit of having raised crosswalks, which will benefit parents with strollers, people who use canes, crutches, and people who use wheelchairs to get around. So those are a few of my comments this evening. Thank you so much again for incorporating what you have, but I think you can do even more with this in Eagle Rock following the Beautiful Boulevard proposal. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So next three folks, again, Rebecca Kalaskas, TH, and Bob Babajian. So Rebecca, you are able to unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm a Burbank resident. I live off of Olive, so I will not be commenting on Eagle Rock tonight. I'm going to talk about Burbank. I am a huge supporter of the project, and thank you so much for including the Verdugo station. I'm really looking forward to using that on a regular basis. However, I am slightly concerned about the current configuration proposed along Olive, as well as the Metrolink station. The curbside running configuration would require adding essentially an additional travel lane to Olive, which is already wide, and traffic is flowing very fast. So in order to cross Olive, we're looking at crossing 6 to 7 lanes of traffic. And you're also talking about narrowing the sidewalks and potentially removing mature trees. So all of that is very concerning to me. So my question is, if you looked at, I know you presented to the Metro City Council regarding taking a travel lane. One of my questions is whether, when you did that analysis, if you looked at the reconfiguration of the Verdugo Olive intersection that the city is considering. And my second question is whether you considered at all a mixed traffic configuration. I have never sat in any congestion on Olive. The buses that run now run on like 30-minute headways, so like that's the biggest deterrent to taking transit. not congestion. So I want to understand what the problem is that's being solved along Olive by adding an additional travel lane and potentially making it more dangerous to cross the street. Let's see. And then what is the speed of the buses that will be going up and down Olive? The second question relates to the Metrolink station. The lake location is very far from the station, the Metrolink station itself. And I want to know if Metro has coordinated with Metrolink on this. I would imagine that they would be very interested in making sure that this transfer is designed properly. I also want to know if you've talked with Caltrans about the bridge widening. As they mentioned in the city council, I mean, the 5 is a huge barrier in Burbank. And so the bridges are not designed to safely walk across at this point. I would never walk across it with my children. I would never walk to try to access that station with my children. And I use Metrolink on a regular basis in pre-COVID times. And then what is the schedule for the first last mile planning? Are the sidewalk improvements that were discussed to access the Metrolink station, would those be part of the project definition as it is approved now, or is that part of first last mile planning? And I just wanted to also reiterate that I think that Buena Vista station was important. So I'm a little disappointed that that got dropped. And I think that is it. I'm sorry for all the questions. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott. If you can join us here, there's quite a bit of questions, and these are all regarding BRT in Burbank. And let's start with the questions about the consideration of what the city's current plans are on Olive Boulevard, and if there's any coordination with them about this, and how we're going about the coordination of this. And there's also another question about mixed flow traffic. Has that been studied on Olive Avenue for Burbank?
So to answer the first question about the Olive Verdugo intersection improvements that the city has planned, I mean, we've had ongoing discussions with them for quite a while on what that could potentially be. We unfortunately have not had the chance yet to review any design plans on that. However, certainly when those design plans are available, we will analyze them and make them work with whatever ultimate project ends up on Olive. And I don't know, Brent, if you have anything to add to that, but I think that's where we are in terms of the intersection.
Right, we would be looking at it once we know what their intention is in more specific detail.
And then as to the question about a potential mixed traffic type consideration, I mean, the goal of the BRT is to get dedicated bus lanes along as much of the corridor as possible. The dedicated bus lanes are a key component of BRT. And really the purpose of the study up to this point and looking at it in the EIR is to understand how a dedicated bus lane could work on each street, what sort of the effects and the benefits would be. So that's how we've approached it up to this point in time. And ultimately, the benefits of the dedicated bus lanes would certainly be there along Olive as they would elsewhere on our corridor. There would be a bus speed improvement that is part of it. In addition to that, there would be a big reliability benefit as well, not only currently, but also into the future. Because as congestion sort of swings throughout the day, where you get rush hour in the evening, at different times of day, evening, morning, what have you, the buses are largely immune to those sort of swings in congestion and varying run times. So the buses will arrive more predictably and reliably and on time with this type of service, as well as over time, because traffic is likely only going to get worse on these streets. It'll get worse on Olive as more cars spill onto it. So having the dedicated bus lanes allows the buses to avoid sort of that long-term degradation in speed and reliability. And I would also note that existing buses on Olive, namely Burbank Bus and the Pink Line that's on Olive, would also be able to use those bus lanes and derive that benefit.
Thanks, Scott. And I think there's a follow-up question about dedicated bus lanes and mixed flow, but the speeds of the buses, and she's asking what do we consider the speeds of the buses to be on Olive Boulevard. I'm guessing whatever the current speeds will, we're not planning on going anything or exceeding any of that. It's just eliminated any traffic congestion for the buses. Did I get that right, or is there any additional?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now the question about the location of the lake station in coordination with the Metrolink transfer, the distance about that. I think that we can also coordinate, add that with the first last mile plan as far as what the distance is. But has that, what is the distance between that lake station and the Metrolink station, and or in conjunction with that?
Yeah, it's about a third of a mile, roughly. And to answer the question specifically about some of the improvements that I mentioned at a high level, I mean, again, we're in an early phase of design. We haven't totally fleshed out what some of the improvements would be, but our initial look is that, our initial thought is that we would include some lighting improvements between the station, between the two stations, as well as some wayfinding type signage. And that would be incorporated as the project. That would be separate from some of the other first last mile planning that may occur along the corridor.
Okay, thanks. And I think that was another question about the schedule for first last mile planning and when we anticipate that and what the process entails for first last mile planning for this project and whatnot. Is there any additional first last mile updates before we the next question on this?
Yeah, I think the goal of the first last mile, first of all, is I think there needs to sort of be a final decision on where the project's going to go and which stations we're going to be serving. Now in Burbank, that is pretty straightforward. It's not as straightforward elsewhere along the route. So I think the first step is having the board approve a proposed project. And then once we sort of work through that and some of the design refinements and complete the EIR and move into preliminary engineering, then it'll be more of an opportunity to start looking at some of the first last mile planning efforts.
Okay, thanks. And I think hopefully I caught this as maybe the last question about Caltrans coordination on the bridge widening. I think that's what she was asking about. Is there any talks about that? I don't think that was something that we were looking into, but you've been coordinating with all the other agencies, but has there any of that been considered or discussed?
Well, I mean, we've coordinated from the get-go with both Caltrans and Metrolink. As far as the bridge widening specifically, no, we have not coordinated with Caltrans on that. A bridge widening is just simply something we cannot, that would be cost prohibitive for the project. So the station, as we had proposed it in the draft EIR for the station at the top of the Olive Avenue Bridge, that was based on the existing bridge as it's currently designed. But then again, based on some of the concerns felt by the city about whether the infrastructure needed could be accommodated given the existing bridge design and age, had us relook at this lake station. But then again, if ultimately the city is able and willing to widen the bridge, then it could present the opportunity to install the infrastructure that we need to have that safe pedestrian signalized crosswalk across the bridge. And again, we would be willing to look at relocating the lake station back up to the top of the bridge at that time.
All right, thanks, Scott. Let's go on to our next questions. Callers, we have TH followed by Bob Babajian and Natalie Freeberg. So TH, you are permitted to unmute yourself. You can go ahead and start talking.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Hi, my name's Terrence, and I am also a homeowner and a parent of young kids, and I just wanted to express my support for the Beautiful Boulevard plan. I'm also concerned about the language around real stakeholders. I think the people that ride the bus down in Colorado are the real stakeholders that stand to gain from this policy along with the community. And I'm a little bit concerned that this meeting isn't in Spanish, since such a large percentage of them speak Spanish. And I'd like to know what outreach there has been to that community to make sure that their voice is heard. Very quickly, I just want to say that my family, we're going to choose the transportation mode that is most convenient and most efficient. So if the status quo remains in Eagle Rock, then we're going to drive and add traffic because it's slow to ride the bus and it's terrifying to ride a bike. And it's a super unpleasant pedestrian experience because of the speed of cars traveling down Colorado Boulevard. And so with this incredible bus lanes and with these incredible bike lanes, my family will be motivated to hop on the bus and ride bikes around Eagle Rock, which and walk around and shop and eat at Casabianca Pizza, but we're gonna get there by bus. I think that Eagle Rock should plan for the traffic that they want as opposed to the traffic that they have. And bike, bus, and walking traffic is the type of traffic that you wanna have. The status quo is that we have, as that gentleman said, a 6-lane highway And I don't know why people want the status quo, which is just a place where people drive 50 to get to the 134. We have a chance to make Eagle Rock like Larchmont Boulevard, a once in a generation chance to make it like Larchmont Boulevard, or like the downtown of Sierra Madre, a true main street to transform the community and the way that we interact in it, and a place where we can let go of our kids' hands and not worry about them getting run over by a car going 50. Let's let go of our kids' hands. Let's have a beautiful boulevard. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, TH. And just so I wanted to clarify, this meeting is being conducted also in Spanish. And if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, there is an opportunity to go and listen in on Spanish if you are a Spanish speaker. But I made the announcement at the beginning of the meeting. If there are no Spanish speakers in that channel, then our interpreter is not speaking in Spanish. But this meeting is being made available in Spanish should that be needed. Additional outreach that you were asking about Spanish speakers, our notifications are bilingual. In many cases, we were actually providing them in multiple languages, English, Spanish, Armenian, and Tagalog. So, just so everyone is in the know that we have been doing as much outreach in multiple languages as possible. But again, with COVID times that's going on right now, the engagement and to be able to speak to people one-on-one in person has been a little bit more challenging, but we are doing everything possible. We always appreciate any help to spread the word, and thank you for those of you who are here for this meeting. Okay, next three people to speak are Babjian, Natalie Freeberg, and Joe Linton. Bob, if you can unmute yourself, you are permitted to speak here.
Oh, hello everyone. Hi Metro. Thank you for holding this meeting. I'm a 10-year resident of Eagle Rock. I'd just like to echo everything that last caller said. I'm in full support of the project. I'm really excited to use it. I live north of Colorado Boulevard, and I currently walk to Trader Joe's to do my grocery shopping. I walk to the dry cleaners. I do have a car, but with this new project, I'm excited that it would be safer to walk in the area. And like the last caller said, I would use the bus more. I use it sometimes, but I don't use it as much because, it's slow, it stops a lot, and it's in the other lanes, and it's just not worth it sometimes. But I will use the bus now that it has a dedicated bus lane, and it will be faster to get to places like Old Town Pasadena or places like that. I have a few questions that kind of relate to that comment. You talked about enforcement of the, and you call them dedicated bus lanes. Are these protected bus lanes? And if there's no enforcement, I'm just afraid, I know that the Wilshire Boulevard BRT lanes, there's been a problem with no enforcement and just cars just using them like regular lanes, or Lyft and Uber stopping in those lanes, UPS stopping in the lanes. And that will really, degrade the premium experience that Metro's spending all this money to implement here. And if that happens, all this money seems to be going to waste. We need to ensure that there's proper enforcement or bollards or something to protect these bus lanes so people don't start just using them and blocking the bus and the point of having a fast bus to compete with car traffic. Also, another question was, will the sidewalks be extended or widened besides the current bulb out proposals? Now that there's going to be less car traffic and more room for sidewalks, are they going to be widened besides the bulb outs, like in the middle of the block? Another question is, I do support moving that Eagle Rock bus stop east towards Casper and Maywood, so it's directly across from the current south bus stop that's proposed. And you say that there's a bike buffer. Are the bike lanes going to be protected, or is there just I don't understand what the buffer is there. I'm also concerned about the fast traffic coming off of the 134 and onto Colorado Boulevard when they exit and go west. There's the 134 Colorado Boulevard exit when you're going westbound, and then it merges right onto Colorado Boulevard, and traffic doesn't really slow down there. And so if they catch the light on Eagle Vista, crossing the street at Lolita and Colorado Boulevard is really dangerous because traffic's really going fast there. And I noticed in your presentation earlier, you said you're going to be adding more crosswalks. Are there going to be added crosswalks between that 134 merge onto Colorado Boulevard and Lolita Boulevard just to help slow down that or calm that traffic there? And that's all. I'm excited for the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Scott, there were a few questions here. I'll answer the first one because I discussed it before, but about enforcement of dedicated bus lanes and if there's an enforcement. Currently, there isn't an enforcement per se with, but there is an assembly bill that is out there that will help with enforcing these violations through photos that on cameras that would be placed on buses that would be on the dedicated bus lanes. So stay tuned for that. Again, that's something new, and we're still waiting to see if that's going to be something that could be enforced. Again, local jurisdiction is also up to them to enforce it. But again, it depends on where we are with the project and where it runs on that part of the enforcement. There is a question about widening sidewalks, Scott, and is it is there any plan to widen it besides just the bulb outs that are already in the planning stages with the city of LA?
Generally speaking, no. The existing sidewalk conditions would largely remain. I think the exception would be where we're proposing side running stations. Where really in Eagle Rock we are just proposing the one set of sidewalk of side running stations over by Broadway. And there would be some sidewalk expansion to accommodate those stations.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Another question was about can you elaborate a little bit more about what the buffered bike lanes are and what is considered the buffer for the bike lanes?
Sure, yeah. So the buffer can be a couple of different things. At the very least, it could be like a separate striping between sort of the existing bike lane and then where the bike lane ends. There could be a buffered space of a number of feet. That's how we're sort of proposing it. Another option is to put in some sort of physical barrier, most likely in the form of like a bollards or something like that. That could also be an option for buffers.
All right, I think the last question was about the Colorado exit off-ramp going westbound from the 134, about the dangers there and how, will there be more crosswalks? I guess his question was more about slowing traffic, given that I think he had mentioned that the traffic, or at least the exit speeds there can be pretty fast from the freeway.
Brent, would you mind speaking about?
Sure. Yeah, sure. We're gonna, the plans are still evolving. However, we are indicating a new traffic signal and a crosswalk at Linda Rosa. And I think I had previously indicated that the signal retiming that would take place would take into consideration appropriate and safe operating speeds.
All right, thanks. Thank you. Let's go to our next three folks. So we have Natalie Freeberg, followed by Joe Linton, followed by Jean Leland. So Natalie, you can unmute yourself. You're able to speak here.
Hello. Thank you very much for this opportunity and for all your hard work. Appreciate you all staying late. I'm fortunate to be a homeowner on Hermosa, just off of Colorado, so I'm right in the thick of it. For the record, I'm the co-chair of the Land Use and Planning Committee for the Eagle Rock Neighborhood Council, but I'm speaking here as a private citizen. In that capacity, I support the aspects of the Beautiful Boulevard which you've adopted, and I look forward to sitting on a sidewalk outside one of our local restaurants and having passing traffic be slower and quieter, especially since SB 314 is more than likely to make outdoor dining a permanent opportunity. Thank you also for understanding some of our key community concerns, specifically preserving the medians, keeping all or most of the parking, and keeping the bike lanes. Which brings me to my first question. Have any of the other proposals hit all three of those targets? I also happen to be the president of the Silver Lake Chamber of Commerce, and I've been working closely with restaurants in Silver Lake during the pandemic. I started to also do that with Eagle Rock restaurants about 7 months ago once I realized that they needed help too. Regardless of the outreach which you have done, I'd like to mention the many people that I've been speaking with who just aren't able to be on this call, specifically business owners, especially restaurant owners, and employees in Eagle Rock. Many of the restaurant owners have told me that approximately 50% of their staff uses public transportation. Those employees aren't at this meeting, but the Beautiful Boulevard has received signed employee petitions which support essentially this refined F1 proposal. As one small business owner said to me, please tell Metro that unless they have meetings before 7 a.m. or after 9 p.m., I'm working. I gave you permission to use my logo for the Beautiful Boulevard. You didn't steal it. Because like the other business owners who've signed on to it, I believe this will be good for our businesses. My other question then is, if those owners are not able, or those employees are not able to be on any of these calls, but they've signed the petition and given permission for their business names to be used as part of the coalition that supports the Beautiful Boulevard proposal, will that support still be counted, along with the over 600 people who've signed that petition? Again, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Scott, there was a question about if this latest proposal hits the three targets that she had mentioned. Can you elaborate on that question?
Sure. So if I recall correctly, the three targets as laid out were bike lanes, medians, and parking. I hope I have those three correct. And the answer is that this proposal does retain those elements more so than any of the other concepts that we've looked at. They do retain the buffered bike lanes at approximately the same width that they are now. Medians, as I mentioned before, would be preserved in a full wide fashion as they currently exist. This is the proposal. This is a big change from our original F1, which did narrow them and make them less contiguous. And then from a parking standpoint, yeah, this one does preserve most of the parking. And so, I mean, the basic, the sort of takeaway here is that when you're planning a BRT with dedicated bus lanes, something has to give, right? I mean, you need that right of way to come from somewhere. And so looking at all of our different proposals, I mean, we've looked at how we can do it and maintain the travel lanes. We've looked at sort of what the difference is in with potential impacts to medians and compared to parking. And then we looked at the bus bike lane combination that would preserve a lot of these other elements, but then the buffered bike lanes would become bus lanes that bikes could share. And this proposal does take the travel lane east of Eagle Rock Boulevard, but in doing so, it does allow a lot of these other elements to be maintained largely as they are today.
Thanks, Scott. And the question about those who are not able to attend, again, the final decision is by the Metro Board, and they always take into consideration any and all comments that are made to the Metro Board. So if anyone has any additional comments or recommendations, again, you can make them to the Metro Board when this project moves forward to be decided on by the Metro Board in May. So they always welcome and take any and all comments. So again, hopefully that helps answer that question. We do have more hands raised. So let's go with Joe Linton, followed by John Leland, followed by Rebecca. So Joe, you are able to unmute and ask your question, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm very supportive of Beautiful Boulevard and of Metro taking more aspects of Beautiful Boulevard into the plan, including the left side boarding, the sidewalk level bike lane, and some folks earlier had brought up the concern with fire trucks and emergency responses, and I think that really argues for, I'm sure those folks would be in support of doing more center running BRT, including west of Eagle Rock Boulevard. Can you explain why it would be side running in that area and not center running, especially if we can do left side boarding, especially for the fire trucks and all the congestion? Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Scott, the questions about why not center running east of Eagle Rock Boulevard on Colorado, and why are we looking at side running instead?
Yeah, so I did lay out some of that in the presentation. I'd be happy to go through some of it again, and Brent, feel free to jump in. I will touch on the left door boarding concept. A single left door boarding platform would not work well over near Broadway in Colorado. I mean, I can say that right off the bat. There just simply isn't enough room in the center of the street for something like that over in that area because of the left turn pockets and sort of the transitions that are going on there and just all the activity in general. I mean, there's a number of other challenges as well with crosswalks that would be needed to access the center platform in this area, and to implement crosswalks again in this really complicated area where you have Colorado and Broadway merging Georgig, and then we have Sierra Villa also would add some challenges as well. Brent, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. Well, I think you've mentioned that we have a bit of a traffic knot over there because you've got the two different roads, both of which service freeway off-ramps coming together there, so there's a lot of congestion. The center running configuration at that location would require left turn lanes to be operating separately from the bus, so that the bus would actually have to hold the traffic at the left turn lanes, and that would actually make it more difficult for pedestrians to get across the street. With the side running configuration there, the buses and the traffic move at the same time, and the only need for the left turn lane, and then it's just for the left turners, so that it's easier to get the pedestrians across the street. So that was mainly done for pedestrian timing.
All right, thank you, Brent and Scott, and thank you, Joe, for one of our shorter questions. Let's hopefully we'll have more of these questions again, and thank you for those of you who are still on the call with us. We are approaching our 4th hour, but hopefully we'll be wrapping this up soon. The next 3 folks who are going to speak are Jean Leland, Rebecca, and Severin. So, John, you're next to speak. If you can unmute yourself.
Thank you, and I'm Jean Leland, and I'm going to say only. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, thank you. I've been a resident of Eagle Rock for 47 years, so I say that only because I have seen Colorado Boulevard in many, many configurations over the years. So my questions are, number 1, how many of the locations on the entire route from North Hollywood into Pasadena have only one single lane of traffic that you're having in Eagle Rock, and where on the route are they? And then number 2, I want to address the section of the route just between Eagle Rock Boulevard and Linda Rosa. And a quick count on, MapQuest, it looks like it's only 15 blocks long. I don't know how many miles, whatever. And it's mostly commercial property. So I'm wondering why does that section of the road need to be a dedicated lane for BRT? Because I figure if you're sending a bus out of North Hollywood every 10 minutes, that would mean that there's 50 minutes of time every hour that lane is unoccupied. And I can't even picture what the traffic in the single lane is going to look like when you've now crammed 2 lanes of traffic and all other buses into that lane. And then we have people parallel parking. So I can't even picture what that is. So I'm wondering if there is a compromise where, for example, maybe by hours, that from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., it would be a dedicated lane. And then from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., it could be a mixed lane where it's shared. Or if there could be some flashing light that indicates at this point in time, it's okay to get into that lane. But if there are circumstances that it isn't okay, then you have some other signaling to let the traffic know you got to stay over in that other side. So over the years, what I've seen is in this stretch of commercial property is that these people get their supplies and send their packages out by large commercial trucks who park in a lane of traffic. And what we see is we have to go around them because the back door of the truck is open and the delivery person has taken a dolly with boxes of goods in. So when we're down to one lane of traffic, where are these trucks going to park? Because there are no driveways next to these buildings, and many of them not have alleys behind them. So I don't know. I mean, that's many blocks of businesses that are affected. And my last thing is a suggestion to you for future presentations like this. It would be wonderful when you are about to give your answer, if you put up the map of the segment of the route we're talking about, so as you're giving us answers to say at Casper or at whatever, we're able to look at it and understand better what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Scott, there were some quite a few questions here, so I wanted to ask you these questions. But the first one was about how many locations have only a single lane of traffic along this alignment, and if you can share where they are.
Sure. So there are two segments of the corridor outside of Eagle Rock where we are also proposing a configuration that would have result in one travel lane in each direction. That one location is on Central, heading down the spine of Glendale, and then the other would be on Broadway, also in Glendale.
All right, thanks, Scott. Another question was, why does the section need to be a dedicated lane for BRT between between Eagle Rock Boulevard and Linda Rosa? I think the question was about any concerns about traffic, and then there were follow-ups as to can there be some sort of compromise where it's mixed use lane from 6 a to 7 p.m. and then dedicated times other times. Sounds like a hybrid she's asking about. Is there something like that that could be proposed, or is that something that's been considered?
Well, so peak period bus lanes is something that we have not evaluated per se in the environmental impact report. We've studied and gone under an operational assumption of all day bus lanes so that we can get that benefit all day. And the EIR by looking at all day, you can kind of evaluate sort of the fullest extent of what the impacts could be with an all day lane. So that's how we've approached it. Now, whether a peak period sort of bus lane that would then revert back to mixed traffic during certain hours, whether that would be operationally practical and feasible for the section in Eagle Rock. Brent, would you mind weighing in on that a little bit?
Well, the configuration that we're currently looking at wouldn't really accommodate that because the left turn pockets to allow the maneuvers to occur, from the mixed flow lane to make the left turns and whatnot, they're outboard from the bus lanes, and I don't think we could have mixed traffic, operating inboard from the left turn bays. It would, certainly could be looked at, but it would require a completely different design concept.
All right, thanks. And the rest were, I think, pretty much comments about putting the maps segments when we're talking about certain areas. So I think that's a good suggestion. But again, we don't normally have 4-hour meetings where we would exert our maps and going back and forth. All right, let's go on to our next folks. So we have Rebecca, followed by Severin, followed by Alec. Rebecca, if you can please unmute yourself. You're able to speak and ask your questions here.
Hi, I'll be one of those classic people that say they've lived in Eagle Rock for a couple of decades. My home is within earshot of Colorado Boulevard. I love living within earshot of Colorado Boulevard. I love this neighborhood. It's a great part. One of the things I'm familiar with is that the last time we reduced lanes on Colorado, we went from 3 to 2, and there was quite a lot of hubbub and squawking about that Hill Boulevard was going to get all this traffic, and that never came to pass. So the people that say that that Hill will become a new thoroughfare, I find that to be just noise. But what I am interested in is at one point, someone asked about the compensation plans for the mom and pop shops of Eagle Rock. One of the things that makes Eagle Rock a special community and why you have so much love and attention coming from our neighborhood is that we are primarily a mom and pop community. And we spend our money in Eagle Rock and we support our local businesses who are frequently run by other Eagle Rockers. I'm deeply concerned that we did not get a commitment from Metro at this point as to how those businesses, which have suffered tremendously during the pandemic, might be affected negatively. I am a huge proponent of this plan. I've been to a number of the meetings. I believe in what you're doing. I believe in all of it. But I need to find out how you're going to take care of those businesses. I'm a little bit confused also about why this route is not going to go to the Burbank airport, which is something else someone mentioned. As much is being done to try to get something to go from a something to LAX, having this come up about but not go to Burbank. I'd like to know why that happened, or why that isn't part of it. And lastly, someone at once said that they didn't know who was on the beautification plan that you have looked at and taken so many plant ideas from, which I'm very grateful to see. And I'd like to just get it into the record that can be found at www.eaglerockforward.org/coalition, which lists a huge number of the different organizations, individuals, and businesses that are completely on board and looking forward to seeing how you can help Eagle Rock become part of a broader plan. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Well, before we go to you, thank you for your question. And again, I see your concern about the business interruption fund, about not committing to it. And unfortunately, we're not the folks who can make that decision. It is up to the Metro Board. But again, this is where you all come into play. Again, the Metro Board makes that decision, and it could always be requested for consideration at our Metro Boards. And we encourage all of you to participate in the process and be notified as well when these meetings happen. So we will definitely let you know. Thank you for your concern about the small businesses. Again, Eagle Rock is well known for its small businesses, and we appreciate what all the small businesses have been having to deal with just to stay afloat right now. Question, Scott, about the Burbank Airport. I know that in the beginning stages that was one consideration, but why did we no longer consider it, and what were the studies, or what made us decide not to go there?
Yeah, so we did look at it early on in the alternatives analysis phase of the project, and a couple of challenges there. One being that we didn't see a good opportunity to get dedicated bus lanes between the airport and where we would be connecting from along our route. So that was one issue. Another is that, quite frankly, we didn't see necessarily a big ridership generator there. There was a lot of parking at the airport. In addition to that, accessing the airport as somebody using the airlines would actually be better served using like a flyaway type service where they could store their luggage on it. And so our thought was that would really be more of an appropriate service for the airport. I would also note that the airport is actually already pretty well served by transit. There's several bus lines that go in there. There's about 3 dozen Metrolink and Amtrak trips that are made through those stations every day. So overall, it is pretty well served, and our project will connect to other transit services that will be able to access the airport.
All right, thank you, Scott. Again, moving on to our next questions. Again, we're almost going to wrap up this meeting. Again, hopefully we'll get a little bit close to 9 here. So we have Severin, followed by Alec, followed by Chris. So Severin, if you can please mute yourself, you're able to speak.
Hi, thanks for giving us the opportunity to come and ask our questions. I'll try to keep it brief. Let me just first say I like seeing the Beautiful Boulevard elements being incorporated. I would like to see the center platforms just because that's more intuitive and better for kind of first time or infrequent riders. I really wish there had been BRT when I graduated from Eagle Rock High School and started taking classes at PCC, because I would end up biking because it was faster and more reliable than our local buses. And if I had BRT, it would have been a huge benefit to me. But my question is, will there be bike parking provided at the station so a lot more people could use BRT if they could park their bike before boarding the bus and use the newly protected bike lanes that are going to be implemented? So that's my question, if there will be bike parking at the stations. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Scott, this is about amenities at the stations and bike parking. Is that can you answer that or address that, if it's part of this or the last mile plan as well?
Yeah, bike parking at the stations is certainly the intent. Yeah, that's one of the amenities that we're looking to implement. Is I think as we go through design and kind of figure out exactly what the stations will look at and what amenities each one will have, we'll have more of an opportunity to flesh out exactly what that would look like. But yes, that is the intent.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, Alec Bartrosa, followed by Chris S., followed by Jesse Salcido. Alec, if you can unmute yourself, you're permitted to speak here.
Yes, hi, thank you. My name is Alec Bartrosov. I'm a Glendale resident. I want to express my support for the Beautiful Boulevard proposals. I also like the idea of grade separated bike lanes along that segment. I also want to get confirmation from you whether or not the existing bike lanes on Central in Glendale would be impacted as part of the central alignment in Glendale or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alec. Scott, can you address the bike lanes on Central Boulevard with the proposed BRT?
Sure, yeah, and my general understanding is that we would be maintaining largely the existing condition of the bike lanes that currently exist now. They're not necessarily contiguous, I don't believe, on both sides of the street for the full extent that we're on that street. But Brett, do you want to weigh in a little bit more on how that would work with the existing bike lanes?
They would remain because we're simply converting a lane.
Yeah, so the existing Class 2 bike lanes would remain in effect.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to our next folks on the line. We have Chris S., followed by Jesse Salcido, followed by Eclectic Los Angeles. So Chris, if you can unmute yourself. Here, you're permitted to unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you for taking the time to demonstrate the proposal. As a resident of Eagle Rock, I just wanted to express my vehement approval of this project, especially the updates to the Eagle Rock section. And Los Angeles desperately needs to move past the reliance on personal vehicles, and focusing on transit and dedicated bike lanes is the way to create more accessible communities. The concerns about traffic are exaggerated, I think, by a vocal minority, and this project will be a boon to local businesses and contribute to the economic development of this vibrant corridor. My question is related to the conversion to light rail. Is that being discussed, or is this project being designed with the future conversion in mind?
Thank you. Was that your only question?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Scott, what's the possibility of this becoming light rail eventually, or is this something that's being considered?
Yeah, on a high level, we have had some of those discussions and some consideration, but I think overall it would be important to sort of treat them as separate projects. I mean, they're both quite different in terms of what they involve, in terms of configuration, right of way. So I mean, so it really, again, it would be largely treated as separate projects, but I mean, with the establishment of a BRT, it certainly does lend itself to an eventual, more of a likely eventual conversion to a light rail project.
All right, thanks, Scott. Okay, Jesse Salcido, followed by Eclectic Los Angeles, and then Hillary Norton. So Jesse, if you can unmute yourself, you're able to speak here.
Yeah, hi, Tito, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Great, thanks. Yeah, thank you guys for staying on and getting other questions. So my questions actually are stemming from or related to Eagle Rock specific. I'm a resident and homeowner here, and my questions are related to the small business community. I know there's been a number of questions that come up as far as the impact, and I was curious if you could elaborate a little bit or just share. I know you mentioned earlier about the Business Resource Center, the Business Interruption Fund, and I was just curious if you had, if there was some data. Now I understand that you mentioned the Metro Board is making those decisions, right? But I'm guessing that y'all would have some data or examples of when Metro has used those resources and gotten approval from the board in past projects. If you were planning to share that data with the small business community, especially the folks who are going to be impacted, right? And all small businesses, not just restaurants here, but just wondered if you're going to plan to share that with the small business community.
Thank you, Jesse. So in essence, the programs that are offered by Metro for small businesses and assistance programs such as Eat, Shop, Play, Business Resource Center, and then again the Business Interruption Fund are pretty much Eat, Shop, Play and the Business Resource Center are programs that we offer for most construction programs. Business Interruption Fund, I think most recently was enacted in the Crenshaw LAX project, the light rail project. Again, again, that's on a case-by-case basis by the Metro Board, and again, that could be requested, and made known to the Metro Board by community, and also, ask for additional evaluation for such a need. Now, just so you know that right now the business interruption fund is being put on pause because it's we're unable to tell the differences right now between impacts that are from construction or COVID. But again, we don't anticipate COVID to continue on any too much longer than hopefully this year, which is well beyond the time that we will need for this project when it goes into construction, if it goes into construction. So yeah, Eat Shop Play is available on a Metro website, again, metro.net/Eat Shop Play. And the Business Resource Center is also another opportunity that Metro has on their website that we can always supply the links to that, to shows and shares pretty much what type of resources are available. So hopefully that provides a little bit more insight on that, which when we get closer to construction, that's where the construction team comes in and provides those additional resources and access to this type of impacts, which they go in and assess with every business as to the type of ways that they can participate in this program. All right, so we have Eclectic Los Angeles, followed by Hillary Norton, followed by Catherine Oyster. Catherine, you are our last person. We had noted that earlier on, so just let me know we're in the last 3 people. So Eclectic Los Angeles, if you can, well, where are you? Eclectic, yes, if you can speak. I can hear you.
Great. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm Eclectic Los Angeles is my email. My name is Pamela Brule, and I am a longtime resident and homeowner in Eagle Rock. My home is within just a few blocks of the major district of the business district of Colorado. So I'm on Colorado Boulevard quite a lot. And as I believe G mentioned, there are thousands of homes, or hundreds of homes anyway, that border north and south of Colorado Boulevard, who come down onto Colorado Boulevard every single day to do their shopping, picking up their kids, going to and from the freeways, which we know are on both east and west of Colorado Boulevard. I just want to say right off, I am not against a metro coming into Eagle Rock. I think beautification of the boulevard would be fantastic. And I am not one of these people, not in my own neighborhood. I've been on Metro a few times, a number of times actually going into downtown from Highland Park. So I know there is a but and a however coming. And because I just am wondering how they could first of all, why Burbank, Glendale, North Hollywood doesn't seem to have the same issues that a lot of the residents are having about this issue of one lane on Colorado Boulevard. It is basically going to be, and I'm not even exaggerating, and I think that some of the people from MTA, a couple of these people need to come here and live here for a few days to see the traffic that is on Colorado Boulevard at any given day, usually between 3 and 7 in the afternoon. And the bike lanes, I'm all for bike lanes. Bikers, I'm not one of them, but I'm all for them. I'm for safety for people. But they are underutilized, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be there. They should be there for the people that do need them. But as Chris just mentioned, saying that there is a vocal minority against this is not a vocal minority. In fact, there is a very vocal majority that are freaked out about this one lane on Colorado Boulevard. And I find it interesting that other neighborhoods are not so concerned, but you're having all of these people who are very concerned in this one area of Los Angeles, because Eagle Rock is a smaller community. And I think that everybody would understand and acknowledge that Eagle Rock is a smaller community, and that Colorado is the main boulevard, the main place that people go up and down on a steady basis every single day. People that live here are not going to be using the Metro line to go do their shopping, or very few will anyway, to go do their grocery shopping at Trader Joe's. They don't want to carry back up their streets 4 bags of groceries with a kid in tow. If you have a few things, great. We'll come on down. We'll take a ride on it. I think it would be nice to take a ride into Pasadena or whatever. But it is going to be a nightmare. And if you don't think, because I already see it happening during rush hour, if you don't think people are going to divert their traffic onto Hill Drive and Yosemite, you're dreaming. You need to live here and see how the impact will be if you lessen one lane on Colorado Boulevard. I didn't care if they lowered the lanes from 3 lanes to 2 lanes, the bike path, fine. You know, the reason Colorado Boulevard was such a big street was because it did have, at one point many years ago, it had a cable car going down the middle of it. So that's the reason why it was such a wide street to begin with. So the 2 lanes is fine. But I'm honest to God, I am telling you, as a person who has lived here for 34 years, this 1 lane is going to cause so many problems. And my question is this, because I've been listening to this now for a few hours. My question is this, because a lot of my questions have been already answered. But my question is, why do I get the feeling that when I hear people talk about this 1 lane issue and the traffic and the cluster that it's going to cause during particularly rush hour traffic, and I don't care about the walkways, the beautification, great, wonderful, but this 1 lane is going to cause so many issues here, that because more people live here than ever, and it's going to be an impossibility to get around. People are going to divert, and they're going to divert to the neighborhoods, and people are going to be screaming and yelling about that. So I want to know, because I've been listening to a lot, and I've been watching Scott, and I've been watching Brent, and I get the feeling that you don't care. Do you care about what we think in Eagle Rock? Is there a care at all for what you care about how this 1 lane is going to impact the neighborhood? That's my question. Do you really care? Because are these Zoom meetings just to show us what you're going to do, but really don't care about what people think or feel? Or what is it about? I mean, I don't understand, because I don't see, after the meetings I've been to previously and this meeting, I don't see it registering. And I'm wondering if you care, and if this is a done deal. If this is a done deal, then why are we even here? That's my question.
Thank you. Again, we are here listening to everybody, and we're taking all comments. Again, this is not a done deal. The Metro Board will make the final decision, and again, until they say that this project is happening, that's when we can say this project is a done deal. It is not. This is all in the planning stages, where this is strictly a meeting to talk about an update and to take your comments and questions, answer your questions here. So thank you for your questions. We hear you loud and clear, and we understand your concerns about the 1 lane conversion in Eagle Rock. So appreciate it. Okay, we're down to our last 2 questions. I know more people are raising their hands, but we already called the last 2 folks. So it is Hillary Norton, followed by Catherine Oyster. Again, Hillary, you will be next, and then the last person will be Catherine. Thank you again. If you can unmute yourself, you're able to speak here.
Yes, good evening. I'm Hillary Norton, and I have been a longtime resident, 27 years this year, a former president of Terra, worked former chief of staff for the city councilman, and I'm also right now the current chairwoman of the California Transportation Commission. I spend a lot of time walking in my neighborhood and shopping at the local businesses. If you saw my face, if you're a business owner, you will recognize me, because I shop on Eagle Rock full of businesses all the time. Patricia Neal, you know who I am. I'm at Swark almost every morning. I really support this new look at how we're gonna have transportation on the boulevard. I like the plan, because I think this idea of having left side boarding is an exciting innovation. I want to make sure that we can have more and more people in our neighborhoods travel without having to get in the car. More students, like the high schoolers along with Glendale and Eagle Rock High and Occidental and PCC students, travel without having to use a car. And when we talk about that we're only going to have 1 travel lane, we're not going to have 1 travel lane. We're going to have 1 car lane, and we're going to have travel lanes that are a bus lane for travel, car lanes for travel and bike lanes for travel and sidewalks for travel. We're just traveling differently. And yes, I go to Trader Joe's, I go to all these places. I go onto York, and there are places where York is down to one lane. And yeah, it's slower, but you know what? That is a business community that's thriving. Pedestrians are thriving on the street. It's full of people. And I would like to see a prettier, safer, and a commute route along Colorado where we can get to the places we also want to go, like Pasadena, Burbank, Glendale, and so many places where there are new jobs that people want to get to, new places to shop, new places to be. And I think it's only going to bring more people to Eagle Rock and be customers, because every single one of those 35,000 people that's going to be riding the bus, they're going to be passing Eagle Rock and looking at the new businesses and thinking, next time right now, I'm going to get off and I'm going to shop here, I'm going to eat here, and I'm going to get back on the bus. I just think we should have that opportunity to try the bus pilot, but let's do it fair. Let's have the bus pilot with the ability to make left turns, with a bus pilot that has good options for all the buses to use that. And one other thing I'm really excited about is that bus only lane will be able to have fire trucks and ambulance services use that, because I have actually seen the fire trucks and the ambulances get stuck behind cars and people wouldn't move. And I would love to see us be able to have our first responders move faster with lanes of their own. So I want to commend you all for spending this time listening, because I know that you've seen this plan change, and because people have been listening. So I feel like that last question about do you really care isn't fair. We are all here because we care, and this is only going to be the beginning of studying more through the EIR. So I look forward to having more of these things studied now. And I thank you for listening, and I thank you all for listening, because I think we've learned a lot from each other in this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you for those of you who are still with us. Again, we are down to our last question, which is Catherine Oyster again. After this, then we'll wrap up and talk about next steps, which I think we already discussed before the Q&A. But again, we are well past our 4th hour presentation. And again, want to thank those of you who have been here from beginning to end. Catherine, you are our last question. If you can please unmute yourself. You're able to speak now.
Hello, this is Catherine's husband, Dan. Thank you, Mr. Corona. So yeah, I'll just talk real quick. We're a long time, 10-year Eagle Rock residents. We live on the eastern end off of Los Robles in Colorado. What we do support about this is actually we wouldn't mind traffic going a little slower, because once cars go past, the business center of Lolita towards our end, they floor it to the freeway slip ramp, and the other direction coming down the hill. And we have a toddler, and it can be a little scary walking along Colorado with how fast the cars go, or walking our dog. So we like the idea of the greenery, the longer bike lanes, wider sidewalks. That all sounds great. Question being, our little neighborhood, about all the U-turns and left-hand turns, even thinking about businesses like Trader Joe's, coming from the east end down. From what I saw of each plan, it looks like there's a solid median there. I'm wondering, or is it just there's a red bus lane and you can still turn left at certain intersections, or do we have to make U-turns, whatever it is, every 8 to 10 blocks? It's what it looked like. And what?
Can we make U-turns?
Yeah, and then can we make U-turns? I'm assuming we will have to make U-turns, given the 1 lane of traffic in each direction. And then the second question would be, how long will the construction take? Like, are we talking like we'll be in because this seems like such a huge project. Is it like 2 years or more? Thanks so much.
Thank you, Scott. Our last questions are basically about left turns in the center running portion of the alignment in Eagle Walk, and will cars be able to turn left or enter the bus lane to make a left turn, or will U-turns be permitted and available in certain parts to make that last connection?
Yeah, so Brent, would you mind elaborating on sort of the thinking behind a number of the left turns that we would propose to keep open, and sort of how they're spaced out, and the question about the U-turns?
Right, so all the major intersections will be having turn lanes as they presently do today. About half of all the intersections will be unchanged as far as whether you can make turns or open to cross traffic, and maybe there'll be about half a dozen that would have some movements restricted, but and then there would be maybe about a third of the locations would be closed at some of the minor intersections, closed to cross traffic and left turns. The left turning movements would be accommodated at left turn bays. The left turn bays would all be signalized, and the timing plans would provide enough time to accommodate the projected levels of U-turns and left turns, so they would be operating well, and we'd be eliminating the sort of open gaps in the median that presently exist, where cars can just sort of shoot out, without being protected by a pocket. So it would operate more safely. But all of these locations, this is all just preliminary design concept at this point, and every location, as far as whether the median is open or closed, is subject to further evaluation as we move forward in the final design process.
All right, thanks, Brent. And the last question that was asked was about construction. Scott, how long do we anticipate construction to take? And I guess I'll add a little to that too. Will construction be, done by segments, or will they going to do one end and the other and just keep it like that for the whole alignment? I think that's another question that people have about construction.
Yeah, I think at this point it's too early to determine how the construction would sort of be phased, and what elements would be constructed where first. The overall span across the corridor would be a couple of years, but that doesn't necessarily mean that one stretch is going to take that long. It'll likely be done in phases, where you maybe do one side of the street at one point, and then the other side of the street at another point, so you're still able to maintain access to businesses and residents as you go through construction. And again, as we get closer to construction, a detailed construction plan will be developed and will be done in coordination with the city and the community.
All right, thank you, Scott. And with that, it's time to wrap up this meeting. I want to thank you all who are still on with us, and for all of you who asked questions. Again, thank you for being a part of this 4-hour meeting. But the next steps are in May 2021. This year, we're still anticipating to go to the Metro Board to present what we presented tonight. Again, the board will make the final decision on this. They can accept everything that we presented tonight. They can make changes. They can, it's their opportunity to do that, and that's where we also invite you to participate. Then after that, the project will continue on to the final environmental impact report, and have that available sometime in the late summer, maybe early fall. And then we'll continue to working on potential design refinements during the preliminary engineering. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining us today, and for those of you who stuck around, we appreciate your input and your thoughts about this project, and your concerns about some of the elements that we were presenting as well today. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Again, go to our project website, metro.net/NoHoPassBRT. For more information. Give us about a day or two to upload all this information. I can't address how quickly we will be able to get all this up, but hopefully we will be able to do it as soon as possible. So thank you, everybody, again, and you have a good night. Okay, bye-bye.
I rise in the morning and greet the day. Pull out on my way. The transportation shows I care. Every turn of the pedal cleans the air. Green and the green, I'm saving the planet. Just like my friends Dale, Sean, Toby, and Janet. No greenhouse gas, a tiny carbon footprint up your ass. I'm on a motherfucking bike. I'm on a motherfucking bike.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Bike Talk. If you want to hear more, go to kpfk.org, navigate to programs, and choose Bike Talk. On the Bike Talk page, click on the archives link to play or download shows posted in the last 4 months. Go to biketalk.com and copy or click on the RSS link to subscribe. Our Twitter handle is BikeTalkPFK. On Facebook, we are Bike Talk. You can become friends and join our group.